It's a back and forth game. It's great. It's late fall. You're in Columbus, Ohio. The stadium's got the crimson and red. It's a great setting for college football. You get in the huddle and you can't hear. There's 85,000 people going just absolutely crazy loud. You just want to hopefully read lips as he's yelling the play. Lions 75 W, go wide trail. Going to ready break. It's so loud you cannot hear. I'm on the right side now. I'm reading the safety. Try to see if I can get a gauge on what they're in coverage wise. It looks like it's man. So I'm going to do an outside release. I'm going through this checklist of 15 things in my mind, and then oh my God, I forgot the snap count. Now the good thing was I couldn't hear, so I had to look inside anyway to see the ball. Snap it, run the route. I turn up the sideline, and he's having trouble keeping up with my speed. I'm telling the story now, so I've got my version of the story.
This is your version? Nice.
Chuck knew the guy was on top of me, guarded me pretty well, so he's back shouldered it. The guy literally ran by me, and then I catch it and I react. I come back inside and I split the defense. And so now you go from 85,000 people from a deafening roar to 1,500 people from Iowa City. You're up in the north corner of the end zone going absolutely bonkers. And you can hear them, but it sounds like a wave, like 50 yards out in the ocean. It's like, shh, but you can see them up there going crazy, hugging and kissing everybody.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
I hope you guys don't have a chat room or something, because when I was doing the football stuff for ESPN Plus, I used to take so many terrible comments. Didn't like my haircut. And Iowa fans can be brutal, just FYI.
Wow.
Oh, God. What's wrong with the haircut?
They didn't like it or something, supposedly. I don't know.
That's a classic. You've had that for years. Signature. Tonight, we are really excited to have Marv Cook, former tight end, 1984 to 1988 for the Iowa Hawkeyes, all-pro, legendary coach from Iowa City Regina. Marv, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it. As I was joking earlier, I was so mad when I haven't been invited up to this point. I love what you guys are doing. I've actually loved some of the interviews. It's great to learn more about some of the guys that I've always admired wearing the black and gold. So I appreciate the show you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Let's start at the beginning. Take us back to high school and how it all got started, how you got into sports and all that.
I grew up in a town fit for a president. First president born west of the Mississippi, Herbert Hoover. You can actually see the curvature of the earth when you're standing in West Branch, Iowa, because it is the top of the world in my view and my eyesight. That's where my journey began. My mom was a nurse at Mercy Hospital. Just always was around Iowa City, always lived in the shadows of Kinnick Stadium. And from the time I was super young, I just wanted to be a Hawkeye. And so I focused my entire life. It felt like a young kid, that's what I wanted to do. So whether it was baseball season, basketball season, or football season, I had that ball in my hand. And I was missing my front tooth because I wrecked a bicycle when I was like 10 years old and never did get a permanent tooth until I actually got out of college. But would be walking around with my missing front tooth and telling everybody that would listen to me that I wanted to be in the National Football League. I wanted to play football for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I wanted to go on and play in the National Football League. And so it was a great place to grow up. And then to actually get the chance to go to Iowa and be a part of what Coach Fry was doing with the program at that time was truly a dream come true. And Coach was really smart. At that time, Coach Brazier was his best friend and was in charge. Part of being Coach Fry's best friend is he had a recruiting radius of 9 miles from Iowa City. And West Branch was 8.9. So I was lucky that Coach Brazier was able to recruit me. And one day, Coach Fry actually went over to Mercy Hospital, met with my mom, and said that he wanted me to be a part of the Hawkeyes. And from that day on, it wasn't allowed to even talk about any other school or even consider going anywhere else. I think my mom and I were on the same page at a young age that I wanted to be an Iowa Hawkeye. I wanted to be a part of what the program meant, be a part of the culture with the university in Iowa City, and was just blessed to be able to spend those 4.5, 5 years there. And I actually came back to Iowa City, and I've lived here the last 30 years, so it's been great.
Talk to us about the recruiting process. I know things have changed quite a bit. Did you come to do an official visit?
It wasn't like that. Now they got junior days. They have all these different things, picnics, barbecues, all that stuff, and recruiting things. And so you really didn't get recruited until after your junior year. Even after your senior year is when the recruiting would start, and then you would have until February for signing days. So it was like a long time ago. It seemed like it was about a 3 to 4 month process, where now it's more like a 3 to 5 year process as young as they're recruiting kids. It was nice. I just had a great high school career, enjoyed everything about my high school. I played in multiple sports, did the drama, swing choir, did all those different things that were available, and just loved the camaraderie, loved the friendships that I made with my classmates. And so the transition to Iowa was pretty simple. Once Coach Fry and Coach Brazier said they wanted me to be a part of it, I was like all in, and I was ready to go, and was excited. So the only downside was I was a quarterback in high school, and they wanted to switch me to tight end. And you find out after the fact that the quarterback coach didn't want me, the defensive end coach didn't want me, the special teams coach didn't want me, and Coach Patterson stepped up and said, I'll take him. But it was Coach Brazier who stood up for me and really said, we want this guy on campus. We want this guy to be a part of our program. And so I was incredibly lucky that Coach Bill Brazier was a big part of recruiting my area, Eastern Iowa. And my journey in Iowa City might have never happened if Coach Brazier hadn't been the one recruiting me. I was not a 5-star recruit, I can tell you that. I can be honest about that one.
I think that feels like that's happened a lot over the years of coaches standing up for guys that weren't big in the publications at that point and really putting their stamp on the type of people they are and the kind of work they're going to put in that. So that's interesting to hear that. Coach Elliott did that for me. He pushed me through to get a scholarship and get me on the team as well. So I think there's those great stories like that, and people see talent.
After I've been out, I've been coaching high school football and been around it quite a bit. And as we talked about earlier before we got on here, I actually did some color commentating for ESPN Plus and did some regional games and stuff. And so evaluating talent and all that stuff. The one thing that I truly have come to recognize, especially being in it when I was first at Iowa, I showed up at Iowa, I was 6B on the depth chart. There was 7 tight ends and I was 6B. And I knew exactly what that meant. That was Coach Patterson being nice, not listing me at 7 by myself. I was 195 pounds. I mean, I came in here to the first year at Iowa and just got thumped as I was trying to transition to the tight end position. But what you find out is that when you get to campus like this and a program like this, you got 125 guys, 110 of them can play. And if given the opportunity, if given the chance, if given the reps, if given the practice time, most of those guys can play. I learned that real quick my senior year when I was hurt. I ended up getting a high ankle sprain, preseason, All-American, all that stuff, feeling really good about myself. And the first game of the year, I get a high ankle sprain. I end up missing the next 3.5 games. A good friend of mine, Tom Ward, who was the tight end that came in the same time. He was 6A when I was 6B that first year at Iowa. He came in and took over, and he played great. He played against Colorado, Iowa State, and Michigan State. He had a great 3.5 game stretch there where he was catching touchdowns, multiple catch games, and doing a lot of great things. I'm going to tell you what, between Russ Haynes and Tom Ward, I think Tom Ward's the reason I got healthy as quick as I did coming off that injury, because I was like, I'm not going to lose my job. I'm not sitting out of this anymore. I got to get my tail back in there. And Tom was like me. He was waiting for an opportunity, some playing time. And when he got it, he took advantage of it. On some of the greatest stories I've seen in college athletics are just that 3rd or 4th string guy. I vividly remember watching an Iowa State season where they got to their 4th string quarterback, Kyle Kemp, who's in coaching now, and they were playing the #1 team in the country, Oklahoma Sooners, and Kyle Kemp threw for over 300 yards, and they upset the #1 team in the country in Norman, Oklahoma, with a 4th string quarterback. So I'm a big fan of, don't tell me that they don't have talent. Don't tell me that there's not depth positions, because I know that guys can play, and if given the opportunity, then they'll go out and most of them will be very successful at what they're trying to accomplish. That's what I love about college athletics, the parity. Although the NIL now is changing the parity part of it. It's just fun to watch the purity of the game when kids are really playing with passion, representing the name on the front of the jersey rather than the back of the jersey. And the teams that ultimately do that, I think that's why I've been so successful over the last several years, is just that there's a great culture here and that guys love playing for the Tiger Hawk. They love playing in Kinnick Stadium. They love playing in Iowa City. And I've been all over the country. There's just no better place for college football than in Iowa City, Iowa on Saturdays. That's a long, rambling answer to what we started to talk about, but I get going on that stuff. And I live here. I live a mile and a half from stadium, and I can hear stadium from my house. I get to listen to the band practicing their practice location all summer long, getting ready for the season. And I'm telling you what, when I start hearing those clamor and that drum line going, it's a pretty cool time.
That's a hard point to argue. It is a pretty awesome spot for college football, definitely. In amongst the neighborhood and just the atmosphere and the excitement from the people. Why don't we go a little deeper on that and talk about your mindset coming in high school? You were hoping to make it to the NFL and ultimately did, and then had a great coaching career at the high school level as well. Talk to me about what you were thinking about back then, or whatever the mindset was that got you where you were.
There's a two-part deal here, and I got a couple disclaimers I'll have to add in there along the way as I go. And I've told this story a lot because it truly does mean a lot to me, and it does talk about the journey a little bit and the process of what I was trying to accomplish. I wanted to be a Hawkeye. I wanted the Tiger Hawk. I wanted all that. I saw it. I thought I knew about it. I thought what it was like. And so I show up, like I said, I was 190 pounds, playing tight end the first 5 days. I'm getting pummeled. I'm getting absolutely destroyed because I didn't know what I was doing. I had never put my hand in the ground playing football. And I'm trying to block Larry Station, Kevin Spitzig, Paul Hufford. And it's not good. I'm not going to lie to you. It was not pretty. I was stumbling. I was falling into guys because they were throwing me. I was getting cussed at no end between the defensive end coach, Bernie Wyatt, and Mike Hooks and Dave Strobel, and then the guys I was trying to block. And it was brutal. And you guys know how that works. When you're on scout team, you're on the defensive side of the field 90% of the day. And so I'm spending all my time over there getting yelled at and just trying to figure out a way to learn what I'm doing and get better and compete. And so that's what I was trying to do. But after like 4 or 5 days, and you guys might have done the same thing where Coach Fry had team meetings during 2-a-days. So after 2 practices, a 30-minute nap in there, a couple icing down your bruises and stuff. I'm sitting in the back of the room in the team meeting, taking inventory of all my new bruises, cuts and bruises, and just hard to raise my arms above my head. And Coach Fry used to let someone get up and talk all the time. And he'd say, you got to talk about 2 things, what winning means to you or what Hawkeye football means to you. And it was really incredible because you would get the full gamut of discussions. Some guy would get up and talk about his family and how he was going to dedicate his senior year and his work ethic to his brother or somebody that they had lost. Then you would talk to somebody else and they were going to dedicate it to their grandmother. And some guys would talk about growing up. Like I said, it's my story, growing up in Iowa, wanting to be a part of Iowa football and all that stuff, and remembering the days when they weren't very good. And so Hap Peterson gets up, big nose tackle out of Bettendorf, Iowa, and Hap hates when I tell this story. And I might be embellishing it a little bit, but I'm telling you, when I was sitting in the back of the room at 18 and a half years of age, I remember it, what I feel like was word for word, because, man, it was like piercing. It was like cutting to my core. And he gets up and he starts talking, and it was a big year. We had high expectations for what that team was. Chuck Long came back. There was high expectations of what they wanted to accomplish. Hap starts telling the story about the big ocean, how much water, 2/3 of the earth's covered by the ocean. And then the ocean, you have all these fish, and it's amazingly beautiful. And then down the next level, you got the deep fish down there. And then at the bottom, you got the trash fish, the sand sharks, the garbage fish down there. And then below that, then you got the whale dung down there, all that trash stuff. And below that is where all you freshmen are. And so after 4 days of getting pummeled, I mean pummeled twice a day, 2 hours at practice, getting knocked to the ground, cussed at, yelled at, you suck. I thought my name was changed from Marv to an adjective Marv with not a good adjective in front of my name. And it was brutal. And I literally, for a moment, I was like, I think I might have just made the worst decision in my entire life, as I'm sitting in the very back of the room. But he goes, but here's the deal. There's 120 of us. We all have a role. We are all Hawkeyes. We are all on this thing together, and we need every single one of us to get in this thing, be pushing in the direction and the goals that we're trying to accomplish with this season. And so some of you guys, you're going to need to do this. Some of you guys are going to expect to be playing and be great on Saturdays. But everybody's got a role here. And it was at that moment that I knew I was exactly where I needed to be, around the people that I needed to be around and wanted to be around. I decided to just work my tail off every single day, dedicate everything I had to it, and try to be the best teammate, try to be the best player, try to be the best student that I could be at the University of Iowa. And shortly thereafter, the coaches gave out goals for short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals at Iowa, and Coach Patterson handed it out. And I filled it out. And one of the things, what do you want to accomplish when you're at Iowa? And short-term, long-term. And I put, I want to win 5 national championships. I wrote that down. And it's like, in hindsight, you think, is Marv just delusional? Does he not get it? No one ever does that. And I'm like, well, someone's got to win it. Why not us? Why not our group? Why not we do something crazy and win it 5 straight years? That's because I was like, let's go try it. Let's go try to see if we can accomplish greatness and do all those things. I always had short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. I always had high expectations. I always had true belief that we could do that. There was never a time that I stepped foot on a field wearing the black and gold that I didn't think we were going to win. I truly believed every game I stepped on the field at Iowa football, we were going to win it. We were prepared. We were ready to go. We were all committed. We were all in on it. And then it became that process of what my role was that year. I had 2 highlights my freshman year, the 84-85 season. We ended up going to the Freedom Bowl. After 5 weeks, the first game was on the road. They played in Hawaii. So 60 guys traveled out. 60 guys now had the Tiger Hawk on their helmet. So now 65 of us had just black helmets the next week of practice. And I was like, okay, I'm a freshman. Then they played at home, though, and then another 30 guys got a dress. So now there was like 90 guys had Tiger Hawks, and only 15, 20 of us didn't. Then they went on the road again to Iowa State or something. And then finally, we have another home game, and I see my name on the list to dress. And so I'm like, okay, woke up in Slater Hall, went to breakfast, could hardly eat because I was so excited, got in the bus. They drove us over to the hospital there where they dropped us off. And the locker rooms, as you guys remember, probably was in the northeast corner versus where it is now. So you got off, you walked down about 5-6 steps, you walked into the locker room, and defense was up first, and then the training tables were on the right. Then you walk back past the coach's locker room, and then you walk back to where the offensive locker room was, and then there was the room back up to the bathrooms and the showers, and my locker was right by the entry to the showers and the bathroom. God. But I walk in there and I see my helmet and I see my jersey number 84, and there's angelic music playing with strobe lights flashing down on my jersey and my helmet. At least that's the way I remember it. It might not have been actual music playing or whatever, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was like, this is it. That's my jersey, my helmet. I'm all over this. This is the coolest day of my life. Put it on. I walked down 45 steps. As you guys know, you got to walk down to the field, warmed up for 20 minutes, and then stood on the sideline for 3 hours and 10 minutes and didn't get a sniff of playing. But it was everything I expected, everything I wanted, swarming out on the field, emotional, to be a part of it. It was just the greatest thing in the world. So then another 7 weeks go by. We go to the Freedom Bowl. We're getting ready to swarm out on the field. Mike Hooks, who was a defensive end, number 91, is there. For some reason, he's right next to me, and we hold hands. We're getting ready to swarm out, and he looks at me. He says, "Hey, Marv, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be okay." And literally, Mike Hooks had said 3 combined words to me all season, and that one was an adjective, one was my first name, and that usually came together and multiple times. Those are the only 2 or 3 words he used all season long with me. But it was literally at that moment that I knew I was doing all the things I needed to do to be successful. Even though I wasn't getting the recognition, I wasn't getting my name in the paper, I wasn't getting playing time, but I knew I was doing the things that I needed to do to get better and to be a part of it and part of the process. And to me, it was just a great, not vindication, but just that I am moving in the right direction. If you listen to Bill Belichick, the process and stuff, there's a process to it, to being great. And you don't become great overnight. You can become great when you do it over and over again, and you do it till you get it right every single time, not till you get it right one time. And that was the core of me and the process that I had when I was at the University of Iowa. That was the mindset that I always had at the University of Iowa. One, that I knew the game was humbling and can just destroy you. You know, you're playing against guys, you play in the Big Ten, you're playing against guys that are going on to the NFL, guys that can play and make you look foolish if you're not ready, if you're not prepared. And so my mindset was always that I was going to do everything physically possible, mentally possible, preparation-wise, that when I lined up to play, the one thing that I knew they could never take of me was that I was not prepared. I wasn't ready to go. I wasn't ready to give them everything that I have. And so when I was like that, I can live with the results, you know, because I know I'm going to get beat a lot by some of these guys because they're really talented. I just always played with ease, comfort, and confidence when I felt like I was ready and prepared and had given everything I had to it. So that was my process at the University of Iowa and what helped me develop over the 3 or 4 or 5 years that I was trying to improve when I was there. So that was what it was. It all worked together. Short-term goals, survive tomorrow's two-a-day was probably one of my answers, to be honest with you, because I don't know if I can take another rep of trying to block Paul Hufford and ending up with his stinky hand pad in my face every time I was trying to finish a block on him. And these guys are the greatest guys in the world, and I love them. I admired them and respected them. They were toughening me up. They were doing the things that I needed to do to get better. And so it was incredible. It was a great experience. I can never say enough. And anybody that was listening, if you want a great college experience, come to Iowa City. And then the other thing I'll tell you is watch the Kinnick documentary and read the letters that he wrote to his high school classmates that came down to visit Iowa City. And he talks about, what I hope you were able to go out to Think Mine, watch the sunset and walk some of the hills. And it's, dude, he's talking, I've done that. I've lived that. And it's, oh my God, I want everybody to be a part of that and experience that. There's nothing like it, in my opinion. There's nothing like college football, in Iowa City especially. With the new patient end zone, it is a 8-point advantage to play in Kinnick Stadium when you play for the Iowa Hawkeyes. It is unbelievably disruptive to an offense. It's incredible. And so that's why I'm not going to lie to you, Nick. I'm going to tell you right now that punting is winning. Bull crap. And Nick, I still think you're a tight end, just so you know. You're a tight end in my eyes. So the punting thing, you got screwed when you were at Iowa because you made the biggest mistake of warming up and just punting the ball, and everybody like turns around and goes, "What was that? Is someone shooting at somebody over there?" What? And it's like, what is going on? And it's Nick punting, and Coach Fry was like, "You ain't playing tight end anymore. You're gonna punt the rest of your career."
Didn't have the chance to prove you wrong on that part, so I didn't get found out.
But
could hide in the shadows.
So it's just an incredible place for college athletics. Like I said, the program, and then Coach Ferentz came in and has done an amazing job with it. And it's just, like I said, it's fun. They're easy to cheer for. They're easy to root for. But the punting and winning, I don't buy that. I don't like Phil Parker's an amazing coach, and what they've done defensively is short of just phenomenal. I'm an offensive guy. Sometimes it pains me a little bit. We're getting better, and I think that there's a lot of greatness to what we're doing. And honestly, though, when you play in the Big Ten, and this is where I catch myself, I'm on both sides of it. You play in the Big Ten, you're going to play in some bad conditions. You're going to play in some wind, some snow, some rain, some sleet, and you have to be able to run the football. You have to be physical. Like I said, you can't argue with the results because they've been very successful. But I like to be entertained. I'm like the gladiator when I'm out there. I'm like the people watching the gladiator. I want to be entertained. So.
Right. You're going to throw the sword up into the stands?
Yeah, that's right.
Are you
that's
not
right.
entertained?
That's right, yeah.
I haven't seen the second one yet. I don't know if it's.
I haven't seen that one either.
Good. It's interesting to hear you say that because a lot of guys talk about this kind of showing up and going through that kind of come to Jesus moment of, did I make the wrong decision? Is this hard to recalibrate? what your pain tolerance and some of these things. And then we just talked to Doug Book the other day.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you were giving him fits when he was younger, and like he had to guard you. And it was like same story, just another version of it. So all these guys had those people that kind of sharpened them and tested them and made them the players they were, and were able to go at it every day in practice.
Hap Peterson's story really did resonate with me. I was scared. I was scared of some of those guys, in awe of them, intimidated by them. But at the end of the day, there is a culture at Iowa that we are all in this thing together. And so from 1 to 125, we need each other. We need to be a part of this thing. And honestly, when you get out of sports, that's what you miss. I don't miss the games. I miss cutting tape off after practice, just sitting next to a guy talking about other stuff, talking about locker room stuff, just the banter that goes on and the friendships. And I miss that camaraderie of sitting next to a guy that's in the same boat as you, doing the exact same things as you, has the same cause as you, and wants a lot of the same things as far as winning and all that stuff. And so that's what you miss, in my opinion. I don't miss the two-a-days and all that stuff. I know they don't do two-a-days now, but it was a grind. It was intense. And the biggest thing, people want to know what the difference between now and 40 years ago. By the way, I was in a committee on a group to recognize an 85 Rose Bowl team. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be on that. I'll help in any way I can. I'm the young guy. And then I'm like, 85? Hold it. And I start 80, 95. I'm like, 40 years ago?
That was 20 years ago, right?
And when you live in Iowa City, and I've lived in Iowa City since I was 32 now, or whatever. And you drive by Kinnick, you drive by the hospital, and it changes a little bit, but it still feels like I'm driving to Slater Hall. And so 40 years ago, and I'm like, if that's 40 years ago, then I got to be. And I'm like, what? That can't be right. But my body feels like I'm a big number, but mentally I feel like I'm still that 21, 2-year-old kid. I might break some big news tonight. I've been holding something in for literally 38 years. Can I share something with you guys?
Please do. Please do.
Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
Hopefully the statute of limitations is out. I've been carrying this burden with me. So when I was a junior or senior, Jonathan Hayes had gone to the NFL, and he was playing for the Chiefs. I had a buddy, Dr. Bob Barges, who was a friend with Chuck Long and Hap and all those guys in that class, Jonathan. He was in dental school. And so he was like, hey, why don't you go down? We'll go down and watch Kansas City play somebody. I don't know who it was. And so I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go down. So we drove down Saturday night, stayed at Jonathan's house, went to the game on Sunday. It was awesome. It was a ton of fun. I went to the social afterwards. I got to see John Alt, Iowa guy, another guy that I was like, oh my God, this is John Alt. I'm so excited, giddy. So I shook his hand, and he had broke his finger in the game. And so it hurt him a little bit. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I might be getting ready to get beat up here pretty bad. But he couldn't have been greater, more gracious as an Iowa guy. But we drove home the 4.5 hours back to Iowa City. I pulled back into Emerald Court Apartments. I was up by the fire station. Up there is where my apartment was. And he's like, hey, what are you doing tonight, Marv? I said, I'm probably going to take my girlfriend out for dinner or something. And Dr. Bob Marr just gave me $20 to take my girlfriend out. So I know that's a violation.
Oh, God.
But I just carried it so long, I can't hold it back. I can't control it anymore. And so I just felt safe with you guys. I just want you to know how much I love your show. I just felt safe with you. I just had to unburden myself with that tidbit. But it's been 38 years I've been carrying that. But anyway.
We'll tell Fred Mims or whoever.
Yeah, I'll probably get calls tomorrow or something. But it was the culture. When he was a student, he was a med student. We're all buddies and stuff. I truly get back to that experience of Now Kinnick documentary, where the student athlete, to me, you came to be a part of the University of Iowa, the culture at Iowa. And the other great thing about that documentary is he talked about walking across the river, going to campus. And you guys have done that, I guarantee it. Yeah. Wearing your winter coat, and it's like 5 below, and you're walking across the bridge and the wind's whipping through there. That's part of that campus, college, collegial experience. Those were the things that I miss more than anything else, and love more than anything else. And So honestly, it was a 5-star event and experience for me. And I only hope that 99% of the people that come to the University of Iowa experience the same thing that I did.
What did you think Coach Brazier, Coach Fry see in you, that it factor, or I could just see the potential or that drive? And I don't remember all your accolades in high school, but you're at a small school, right?
Yeah.
A or 1A. So that translation to the Big Ten football, that's always that question mark with guys from small schools. Yeah, what is it that you think they picked up on, and or what is it that you see in some of the kids you coach that said, yeah, they're going to make it?
Because I like to talk about myself, I'm going to start with me. At 1A football, you do everything. I never left the field. I kicked, I punted, I played defense, offense, all that stuff. Played basketball, baseball, track. I ran track in high school. I was a quarter miler, a half miler. I ran the 400 hurdles. And those are tough events. And you find out who wants to compete when you're in those kind of events and you're trying to win races or whatever. And I just think that they saw that the competitive side of what I was trying to do and all the different things that I was trying to accomplish in the different sports I was in. And so I think that translated over to just, hey, this guy gets after it. This guy will fight you, compete with you, and do well. And so that was the biggest thing. I will tell you, I got a trivia question for you guys. Who was the most accurate kicker in Iowa football history?
I was going to ask you, didn't you have
one for
PAT
one, baby,
or field goal?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm the guy, Brian. I apologize, Brian. I don't mean to break you down or nothing, but never
Straight
missed.
on?
One
Was
for
it
one.
one
Little
field
toe-
goal, was
Extra
it?
Little toe bash?
Extra
point.
point. Okay.
Rob Howland, who you had on there, was he was kicking so much against Iowa State that he pulled a quad, and I had to come in and finish it up. Coach Fry shelved him for the rest of the game, and we ended up scoring. I went in and I punched it through. I'm not gonna lie, Brian, it would have been good from 21 yards. It had so much rotation on it. It was so fast. I got underneath it so bad, but it went over by about 1.5 feet. It was so bad, but I made it. But then the other kicker, so I kicked off that year. I had to kick off too.
I remember seeing that too.
And I love Coach Fry. I absolutely love him. But if I didn't kick it in the end zone, he would get upset with me. And so if I didn't kick it in the end zone, I would go down and try to make the tackle. And if I couldn't make the tackle, I would literally run off like at the 5-yard line because I didn't want to have to deal with Coach Fry. And so I'd be walking. Kinnick's got like about 3 foot of walk space behind the bench. So I'm like walking along, trying to just sneak my way back to the tight end. And Coach Fry would catch me like on the 25-yard line. And he'd be like, Marv, he used to be trying to explain to him, you got to kick it. And I'm like, Coach, I just was on a 9-play drive at tight end. I changed my shoe. I put the big square toe on with the strap, and I'm trying to kick it out the back. I used to get yelled at for that more than anything else. And so then I had a punt one year too because our punter was hurt. Honestly, though, getting back to the question, Brian, is that versatility, and it gets back to that discussion they had in the meeting room there, Coach Brazier and everybody's trying to figure out where I was going to go. The fact that they could all have a conversation of, I don't want him. I don't want him. I just needed one. I just needed one of them to say, I want Marv Cook. And so having that versatility, honestly, guys, I'm not going to lie to you, it gave me the chance. And as a competitive person, like we all are, all you want is the opportunity to compete, to challenge yourself, to see what you can do, see how you can help. And that's all I wanted and needed. And so that one yes was all I needed to get my foot in the door. And then once I got it in, I was going to make sure that I didn't let it close and I was going to keep it open and go from there. So that being the case, that, and then Coach Fry to me was an incredible mentor. Coach Brazier, did you guys do cheers? They call them like the 5th quarter after practice where Coach Fry would do a cheer and he would let people get up and tell a joke or tell just something like motivational or something.
Yeah.
So we had a guy named Greg Divis get up one practice and it's hot and sweaty. Greg Divis gets up there and he starts talking about something. He kind of gets flustered. And so then he goes into the crutch of just dropping F-bombs. So he was just letting them fly in this discussion, and Coach Brazier just sitting in the back, just shaking his head because Coach Brazier just was a salt of the earth guy. shaking his head, just going, this is kind of painful. And so as soon as Greg got done, Coach Fry said something like, hey, okay, we can't end on that one. We got to try something different. So he calls me, and so I get up there and I tell a wide mouth frog joke. You guys heard the wide mouth frog joke?
Yeah.
So I got my missing front tooth, and I'm hot, sweaty. My hair's a mess. I got the red smashes on my helmet, my face, because the helmet. I'm like, there's this wide mouth frog, and he's out there walking around, hopping around, having a good time, and he sees this something along the creek, and he goes, hi, I'm a wide mouth frog. I like to eat flies. What do you like to eat? And the fish said something like, I like to eat like worms or something. The wide mouth frog says, that's nice. I can't tell this on the podcast. This is terrible.
Yeah, keep
So
going.
cut to the chase. He meets like 3 or 4 different animals. And so at the end, he meets a snake, and he gets into, hi, I'm a wide mouth frog. I like to eat flies. What do you like to eat? And I'm missing front tooth, sweaty, 2.5 hours of practice. And the snake says, I like to eat wide mouth frogs. And the wide mouth frog says, ooh. That's how we ended that day. And I'm embarrassed to tell you that story, but it gets back to what we talked about, though. The banner, the chemistry of what we were trying to accomplish, the culture of what Coach Fry brought to the table, the belief that we're all in this together. And it was a nice change up to the prior speech at the time. But together, they were a great compliment, because everybody knew Greg Divis's passion for the game and what he was trying to accomplish and what he wanted to accomplish on Saturday. Those two things together actually helped us get refocused and get ready for the game on Saturday, which is what the whole cheer thing was always about. It was always about bringing everybody together up after a 2-hour practice. And you guys know how practices are. Somebody had a great practice, somebody had a poor practice, somebody got in a fight, somebody did something else, but it was just always a way to bring us all back together. Here we are together as a team. We're the Hawkeyes. Let's go off the team together. Let's go off the field together. And those lessons I took to high school football. I took them to the messages that I had. When someone a long time ago asked me to close my eyes and think of someone besides a family member that stepped up and made a huge difference in my life. Okay. And I vividly remember sitting there thinking about my high school football coach and my 3rd grade elementary teacher. And inevitably, I bet 90% of the people you ask that to will say a high school teacher or a coach in some capacity, as far as someone that steps up and helps you make a difference in your life. And so that was always the mindset that I had when I got into college or high school coaching, was just I wanted kids to have a great experience playing the game. Because at the end of the day, you play the game. You don't work the game, you play the game, and you want to have a great experience. Especially at the 1A level, 60% of the kids are all in. They'll do it. They want to do everything they can. 20% just want to be there, and 20% are showing up because they want to hang out with their friends or whatever. So you're dealing with a little different dynamic. So I wanted to always make sure that everybody had a great experience. When they showed up, they were smiling, laughing, having a great time. When they left, they were laughing, having a good time. They weren't smiling as much because they were just really tired. So they worked really hard for 2 hours. But I still wanted to have a half smile, have a great experience, still be enjoying the whole thing. And so that was always the mission and the goal. And then at the end of the day, too, I always wanted them to have 2 things. One, to have a bigger vision for themselves and what they thought they could accomplish and be, which just requires time and conversations and trying to show them that, hey, there's another level, there's another layer in there, there's more to it, there's more to what you have. And then ultimately getting them to try to believe in that, and then accomplishing that, becoming more. It's not about what you accomplish, but what you accomplish with your abilities. So a lot of times at our level, you have games where it's not a close game, either on the upside of the scoreboard, on the downside of the scoreboard. I didn't care. I did not care about that. I wanted to see, how are you competing? How are you doing? How was your practice prep this week? How was your game reps this week? It was at an event with a kid that I coached. He played center for us. Our starting center gets hurt. His first start, he's like a sophomore in high school at Regina, is against the guy that's playing for the Baltimore Ravens, Lindenbaum. was a nose guard. And my sophomore center, who had literally been playing football for me for like 2 years, that's his first start. And Lindenbaum was a beast in high school, too. This guy was incredible wrestler. But our kid competed. He got on Huddle. He got a lot of clips on Huddle in Lindenbaum's highlight reel. But my dude was competing. He was fighting. He was trying. He could have checked out. He could have said, "Oh, my elbow hurts." And he stepped up. And so I love it. I was all in. I'm like, this guy, that's a great game for him. I just felt like that's what I was always trying to accomplish with young athletes, was just to see if they could become the best portion of themselves, the best version of themselves, the best player that they can possibly be. And then at the end of the day, it does get back to my favorite part of high school athletics was at the end of the game when you lined up and you walked across the 50-yard line and shook their hand. Because at the end of the day, I told our kids, if you guys give me everything you got in practice, you kind of listen to what the coaches are saying, you go out there and you try your best, there's 3 outcomes. You either win, you lose, or you don't win. And I truly feel as a coach, I wanted to make sure that I was always on kids' teams that we never lost. There was a lot of games we didn't win, but our kids never lost because they always gave their best. They always gave everything they had to it and were committed to it and were all in. And that was, to me, that's the purest form of athletics and what we're trying to accomplish with the game ultimately. And so that was probably my biggest lesson I learned from Coach Fry that I really tried to take to the next level and give kids the chance to be successful. Because at the end of the day, every one of us is going to go on and do something besides football, right? Some guys are going to go to the NFL, some guys are going to go to college, but everybody's going to go on and do something after the fact. And the other thing I want to do, and I appreciate, Nick, you sharing your family with us there. That was the other thing at the end of the day. I wanted to make sure that all these guys become great young men and really learn to respect homecoming and prom, and all those were great lessons for us. We always wanted to make sure our guys were respecting young ladies, really understanding that that's a great experience for both of them, but they need to put the lady first and really enjoy those experiences and be great, respectful young men and enjoy those things. And football was a part of homecoming, but at the end of the day, it was about the student experience, all the other student athletes or students in the school enjoying the homecoming and the alumni coming back as well. So just, I try to take advantage of as many situations as possible to make a lot of life lessons, because hopefully you guys catch that from me, that those were the things that really struck a chord with me at the University of Iowa. That and the illegal recruiting that was going on, the stipends that I was getting paid and stuff like that. You think about what $20 is worth today. I coached for, I think, 13 years of high school and loved every minute of it. But even high school football was a high demand. I'm a smart guy. I learned from Coach Fry, you hire great assistants. So I was always bringing Iowa guys in, as many Iowa guys as I could find around. Ed Hinkle, Jason Dumont, Alex Canellis, Mike coached with us. There's a Dustin Ellsbury head coach there now. There's a ton of Iowa connections. And brought a guy in from UNI, Mike Brinkman, whose son plays actually in the Canadian Football League right now, was a great player for us. Just tried to bring as many guys that I knew were great coaches, great teachers of the game, but ultimately great men, great husbands, great fathers. Try to create a great environment for those kids to be a part of. Hopefully when they walked off the field after 4 years, felt like that was a great experience for me. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would love your passion for the game and for teaching the kids the right way. People talk a lot about Hayden Fry and his kind of coaching tree, and they name off all the college coaches. What we've realized going through this is he's really spawned like guys like you and Matt Hughes and all these other high school coaches that really are shaping kids. And so like his reach goes a lot farther than we actually even thought when we started doing this and listened to guys' stories about how they were training kids or they were working on the high school level and really getting kids at that vulnerable spot of, okay, here's the way to do the things the right way and put in the work and all those things. So thanks for doing that and putting your time in. I know I'm sure high school kids are their own basket of things to deal with, but I'm sure it sounds like you had a great time.
I appreciate bringing that up. So Matt Hughes is coaching my alma mater, man. He's coaching West Branch. So I'm excited for Matt, and you're right, he's been great. I actually hired Matt's dad to be the associate head coach when I first took the job. This guy's brilliant. You guys might know him pretty well.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And he's a brilliant coach and a great man and a great mentor for young people. Was blessed to be a part of that. But yeah, Coach Fry was second to none when it came to hiring coaches and bringing them on board. And it was, I don't know if you guys remember, it was the locker room we had, the coaches' locker room was, I think was like plywood. It was like really thin. And so you could hear everything going on in that coach's room. And there was games we'd come in and we'd be up 10 points to some team that wasn't very good or something. And some guys are feeling good about themselves or whatever. And Coach Fry would be lighting them up, yelling at them, screaming at them. And dude, I'm sitting in my locker going, man, when they get started on the tight end coach about they're not getting that reach. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking about me. And my coach is getting yelled at because of me. And then 2 minutes later, they'd all come out and they'd gather. And it was incredible. They were taking the message to heart, but then when they came to us, they were positive. And Coach Fry always used to say this, I'm going to yell at the coach before I yell at you, because I'm going to blame him first if you're the one messing up. So there was a little bit of feeling responsible to the coach if we weren't doing good. But it was just, Coach Fry was phenomenal. And you guys know that. He was an incredible motivator. Whatever side you were on, whether you were winning or losing, he always had a way to really inspire you, to make sure that you were cleaning things up, being better, trying to get the most out of it. The hokey pokey. Did you guys do the hokey pokey?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Timeless dance.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it was just so many great things. And then the culture of the coaches, as you talk about the interesting personalities of them, there was always, the great thing about having a dynamic coaching staff is each player usually has somebody they feel like they can go talk to. When things get really bad on campus, you're really struggling with something, there was always some coach, one or two coaches you felt like you could go visit with and have a heart-to-heart, and you knew they would have their back. To me, it was a great time to grow as a young man. Oh, and then when I'm retired, it's like anything else. I say I got out of Regina before they fired me as a coach. I'm kidding about that. But when I retired, I started doing the math of, and Nick, I appreciate this because this is really, I think, really important. I started doing the math and I'm like, okay, if each class I coached was like 10 kids a class, or let's say some were 15, some classes might have had 20 kids in it, but I'm like, okay, that means I probably only coached like 140 kids, 150 kids in 13 years, right? And I'm like, God, it seems like it should be more, right? It seems like I coached more than that. And I'm like, did I make a difference? When you start thinking of 13 years, 150 kids is all I coached, that's the impact I had. I spent 4 months a year over there for 6-7 hours a day, which I didn't ever get any second. I loved every second of it, but I feel like I should have had a bigger impact than that. But then, as you mentioned, Nick, on it, and it's exactly what you're talking about. So Coach Fry made me a better brother, son, husband. And so ultimately the impact that he had on my life that made me better, that made me a better version of myself, is having an impact on my kids, having an impact on all the people that I've come into contact with. And hopefully it does filter out, and then you really are having a huge impact, which I think is exactly what Coach Fry did. I think his fingerprint in the coaching tree is amazing, but even more so, I think, is the bigger fingerprint or footprint he had in really changing the lives of so many people that came in contact with not just him, but in all the people that he had a big impact on. And I think that number, instead of 130, it starts looking like for Coach Fry, like millions of people that he had an impact on. And you just think of Bobby Stoops was like Bill Brazier's shadow when I was a freshman, sophomore, and junior, and was just always with those guys and just soaking up any bit of knowledge he could get from that staff. Alvarez, McCarney, even Bill Snyder on offense, and all those guys. But being under Coach Fry, and then just think of the success he had at Oklahoma and what he did down there has been amazing. And Coach Snyder down in Kansas State, all of them, it's truly amazing. And so that impact is pretty staggering when you really get around to thinking how many people's lives Hayden Fry has changed the directory just because of the kind of the man he was, the way he led with character, the way he led with conviction, and just trying to do it the right way. And trying to surround yourself with winners. You guys, I don't know if you heard that story. I heard that probably 600 times. Surround yourself with winners. And it's a great message.
Yeah, and Coach Fry would have been, let's say 20 guys go through each class.
Yeah.
So he's only maybe at 20 years times 20, 400
Yeah.
guys with some assistant coaches, a dozen, 2 dozen assistant coaches. So that's not a huge number either, but to your point, it's the impact that had. And then each coach that went on to these other programs and rebuilt. Wisconsin rebuilt, Kansas State rebuilt.
And Notre Dame, Albert went to
Notre
Wisconsin,
Dame,
you know,
yeah.
those guys. Yeah. It's staggering. Coach Patterson.
Iowa State, you said
Buffalo.
McCarney.
Yeah, yep.
Iowa State's program is a direct result of McCarney, I think.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you took over Regina, which was not a powerhouse at all. That was a terrible football program for many years. What did you take from that model that allowed you to turn around into numerous state championships back to back?
Regina was unique in that prior to the districts, when they had the conferences, Regina was in with Dyersville, Beckman, Cedar Rapids, Regis, a bunch of bigger schools because they were a parochial school. They were in with a bunch of the bigger schools trying to make it, and they were struggling with that 55 a class versus 85 a class deal. So football was good, but they were just in a tough conference. And so then when they went to districts, they dropped them down, and now you got a parochial school competing with 55 kids a class with other kids from Columbus Junction or Louisa Muscatine with 55 a class. And 55 a class when you're in Iowa City, Catholic kids can come play in Iowa City. So you do have a little bit of an advantage, I admit. So, but at the end of the day, it was just about, we challenged them a lot. We played City High. We'd play, our fresh soft teams would go play City High, and they would come over with 65 guys playing our 17. And it gets back to just, our kids would compete. We wouldn't win, but we would compete. But ultimately, that experience is just going to make them better. When you play against better talent, you play against guys that are faster, stronger, you learn how to compete, or, you don't survive. Those experiences, we played Xavier High School when we were 1A, 2A schools. We were playing a 4A school. Solon, we always played Solon a lot. And so you take your lumps. If you can hang with those types of teams at our level, when you go back to playing 1A, 2A football, it gives you a huge advantage. So we just always wanted to challenge them, see how good they could become, try to get them to become the best version of themselves. And vividly, I remember the COVID year, we had a game scheduled and it got canceled. And so we're trying to find a game and we can't figure it out. We were a 1A school, and the only team we could find was Pleasant Valley, a 4A school. And they agreed to come up. And we literally on Monday, we decided to play Friday night at our place against Pleasant Valley. And they run the triple option. So 90% of what we were getting ready for was defense because we were trying to figure out how to stop the triple option. So Pleasant Valley shows up, and literally the first 50 guys off the bus are bigger than me. I'm like, oh, dude, we're in big trouble. But again, our kids lined up and we competed. And it was like 21, maybe 14, late in the third. And we were fighting. We were competing, and kids were getting after it, having a good experience with it. And ultimately got beat probably by 21 or 24 or something. But they ended up being the semifinals of Class 4A, the biggest class in football that year. And here we were, a 1A school. But ultimately, that led us to go on and have great experiences, because when we got in tough games, it's easy to say, hey, trust me, as tough as this may seem, remember 6 weeks ago when we were trying to tackle those guys or compete with those guys? And it wasn't about, I always felt like the wins and losses would always take care of themselves. It was just about going out and getting a chance to compete, especially when COVID was going on. They were canceling games, and it just showed you the true purity of high school football was just the opportunity. Having the opportunity to go out and play on a Friday night, you could never take that for granted. And that was, I think, our biggest thing for success. So I'm going to say this as a high school coach. I don't know if there's any other high school coach that can say this. I coached against every level of high school football in the state of Iowa. 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, an 8-man. We signed up for an 8-man game against Lone Tree. We took our fresh soft down there. I'm not going to lie to you. It was chaos. It was so much fun. Our coaches, we had so much fun trying to prepare for it, trying to figure out. We thought we had all the answers. Oh, we're just going to run a version of the spread. And our quarterback, who was my son at the time, was just getting thumped because we couldn't figure out how to block and protect. But quarter and a half, we finally start figuring it out a little bit. We ended up losing the game, I think, but it was so much fun, not just for us, but for them. And then ultimately, you guys know the high school deal. Lone Tree's parents ended up grilling out for us, had watermelon, got us hamburgers on the bus ride home and stuff. It's just, and that great chemistry of just two programs coming together to try to give the kids an experience, right? That's all you want to give them is a great experience. And I know they had a good experience. I know our kids loved it. I know our coaches loved it. Once we started to figure out how to coach 8-man football, but it was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. And hopefully you guys get that from me. That was, the winning's great, but at the end of the day, it was truly about making sure that 1 through 55 on the roster had a great experience, enjoyed the game, and got what they wanted to get out of it for that 3 or 4 months that they were a part of it. So I miss that part of it. I truly do miss that part of it.
Yeah, I love your passion. I want to rewind a little bit. You were talking about legacy and some of those things. I don't know if this is something you realize, but I think you were one of the kind of founding tight end guys at Iowa that showed people that you could be successful, right? You could come in, do hard work and do your thing. And then you went on the professional ranks and were all pro and all those things. And I don't know if you realize probably that like those guys that came up behind you were like, oh, someone can do this. That's like a beacon to see, oh, I can get to there. I can see this path forward. And so I don't know if you take responsibility for that or not, but you've set up a program that's had numerous really talented tight ends. And I think it's like they've seen success. And you were one of the first, you and probably Jonathan Hayes, right? Some of the first guys that were able to show that, okay, you guys can come and do this if you do the right stuff. And you should be proud of that. I'm going to embarrass you a little bit.
I appreciate that. Mike Hufford, Jonathan Hayes, Lon Olenczak, all those guys, Jim Swift, Dave Strobel was even a tight end for a while. Those guys were stand-up tight ends, right? Hayden probably tells a story that, 2 stories. One was that he ran out of tight ends. They were all injured, so he just put receivers in there and stood them up. And then the other one was that, I just put you in there, Marv, so your mom could see you. I wanted you standing up so your mom could see you. Well, that's a good enough answer for me because she knows exactly where I'm at when I'm on the field. Coach Fry was just, he was just the best. You can't, I got to calm down. I apologize. He was as good as it gets. But at the end of the day, it was, Coach Snyder was brilliant offensively. He was an incredible offensive mind. Coach Patterson was incredibly diligent. I tell a story of Coach Patterson that 5 years I was there was 2.5 minutes he let down and had a normal conversation with me besides football and trying to force me to be better, trying to get me to be better, trying to get me 90 seconds to 2.5 minutes. Air Care was waiting to come in to bring somebody in or get into the hospital. You guys remember that being in Kinnick? And it's loud in there when there's nobody in there. It's echoing. And the Air Care guy's waiting to try to get in, and he's backing up and turning. And Coach Patterson, they were practicing. There's plays going in, and I'm standing in the back, 4-string or whatever. And he looks up, and that's hard to do. And now he's talking about toggles and levers and all this stuff that he's doing and wind ratios, and it's over my head. But he flew helicopters in the Army, Coach Patterson did. And so literally for 90 seconds, it was like I had this reprieve where I felt like I was constantly being analyzed and reviewed and coached. I vividly remember that. I can remember I was literally on like the 32-yard line. We were in the red zone going in the south side of the stadium. It was like that clear of oh my gosh, it's just so weird. I've never seen this side of Coach Patterson before. But he was an amazing coach, had a huge checklist, which was what pilots do, right? On target, on time, flying by the manual. And that's how I learned the game. You get in the huddle, and then people ask, 1987 Ohio State. Can you guys pull that video up, by the way? You can play that as many times as you want. I have it on a loop here at the house. So every morning I wake up, that replays when
I would too.
I'm kidding about that.
Let's walk us through that. I was going to ask you about that when we first started, but yeah, walk us through that play.
It's a back and forth game. It's great. It's late fall. It's incredible. You're in Columbus, Ohio. The stadium's got the crimson and red. It's a great setting for college football. And so you get in the huddle and you can't hear. It's just so, there's 85,000 people going just absolutely crazy loud. And so you're looking in to read lips, right? You just want to hopefully read lips as he's yelling the play. Lions 75W, go wide trail. Go on 2, ready, break. So when I'm telling kids this story, I said, what's the snap count on? Because I'm seeing how much they're paying attention to what I just told them. But it's so loud, you cannot hear. And so it's like you're seriously thinking about it. So that you line up, and this is the kind of the checklist. I'm on the right side. Now I'm reading the safety. I'm going to check the free safety. I'm going to check the strong safety. Now I'm going to check the end, try to see if I can get a gauge on what they're in coverage-wise. If the end's outside, I know the safety's probably deep. If the end's on top of me, I know the safety's got force on the outside. It looks like it's man. But trying to figure out, okay, now I got my left foot back because I'm going to do an outside release. So I want to make sure I'm dropping my left foot. So this checklist. This is Coach Patterson. This is my life for 5 years, right? It's just like, and it's man free. It's like 2-man is actually what they were running, I think. What's the snap count again? I forgot the snap count, right? So I'm going through this checklist of 15 things in my mind, and then oh my God, I forgot the snap count. Now the good thing was I couldn't hear, so I had to look inside anyway to see the ball. So now I'm watching the ball. So snap it, you run the route. It's 2-man, so they got 2 high safeties over the top, so there's nothing deep going to happen. And then the guy is playing me like press man, and so he's running with me. And so I turn up the sideline, and he's having trouble keeping up with my speed, is how I tell this. I'm telling the story now. So I've got my version of the story.
This is your version? Nice.
He was with me, but he was having trouble keeping up with me. And so Chuck knew the guy was on top of me, guarded me pretty well. So he back shouldered it. We were throwing back shoulders 40 years ago, right? No, 38 years ago. And so he threw a back shoulder. I adjust, the DB doesn't catch it. I catch it. I try to split the defense. Bo Pelini,
Can you explain the back shoulder thing?
He tried to stop me. What's that?
Yeah. Sorry. Tell what the back shoulder means.
Oh, so yeah, as you're running, and if you're even with somebody, they just throw the ball behind you. And so what happens is when I know he's going to throw it behind me, I get a stop, but the defensive back keeps running. He ends up running by you, and then you can just reach back and catch it. They do it a lot of times in the end zone, the back corner of the end zones on fade routes and stuff. It's really hard to defend because now you can throw it over the top or you can throw back shoulder. So the DB doesn't really know where the ball is going to be. But it literally was something that we had trained and practiced. Now, if he was behind me, he would have thrown it over the top. He'd have put the ball over here, but the guy was even with me. So he can't throw it over the top, so he throws it behind me. The guy literally ran by me, and then I catch it and I react. I come back inside and I split the defense. And so now you go from 85,000 people from a deafening roar to just, where's my car keys? Looking for their car keys, getting their coats on. But 1,500 people from Iowa City are up in the north corner of the end zone going bonkers, going absolutely bonkers. And you can hear them, but it sounds like a wave, like 50 yards out in the ocean. It's just like, shh, you know. But you can see them up there going crazy, hugging and kissing everybody. And so just to have an experience like that, and it gets back to, we had practiced that and repped that and done that. I instinctively knew that's what Chuck was going to do. He's going to throw the ball behind me. I reached back with my non-dominant hand, my left hand, and caught the ball. So does this story sound real? I'm trying to make it better than it actually was.
It's pretty amazing. I love watching those highlights. That was a great play.
And then I split it, and then I got to burst this speed through there. And then I always used to joke that once I caught the ball, I was looking for a nice, soft place to lie down. That's what I was trying to do, so someone didn't come and hit me really hard. But I was able to get it in the end zone, and thank God the turf was really hard because I think I bounced over. I think I bounced in and stuff. But we had literally practiced that over and over and over again, and we were rehearsed and ready to go.
16 seconds to go. Hartley with the ball and one setback and three flankers. Here's Hartley going out. He looks, he throws. It is complete, and it's an Iowa touchdown. It's an Iowa touchdown. It's an Iowa touchdown. Marv Cook. I can't believe it. Marv Cook got in the open at the 5. Hartley passes to him, and
when you are put in that position, and you guys as specialists, you guys know it more than anybody, the routine, the process is 90% of it. 95% of it is just going through the routine, making sure you're hitting the ball right, striking it. If you want to be the most accurate kicker in Iowa history, you've got to have a nice routine. You've got to have a preparation, which I obviously did. 1,000% kicking percentage that I knew what I was doing.
We'll never be
I was ready. I was prepared, and I was going to take advantage of it. But I apologize. I've taken this off the rails, guys, and I apologize. But I've been so much fired up about getting on your show. Finally,
Love it.
it's taken
Bring
forever
the
to get
energy.
on there, and finally I get an invite. My wife could not believe how happy I was. For 2 days, she was just like, "What are you smiling about? What are you so happy about?" I said, "Nick Gallery called me, and Brian Hurley called me. I'm finally going to get on the show." And she was the one that said, "How long have you been doing it?" And I'm like, "I don't want to get into it. It's not a good subject for me right now."
It's terrible.
I thought
Why
I'd
do you
been a
wanna be
top
on
3
that?
or 4 guy. What is what it is, okay? We won't go there.
Those
But-
two
but-
goons.
And then the humility of the game, and I talked about this briefly, is that everybody's good. And like I said, I get back to Iowa. The second string, third string, fourth string guy, they're good. They're good players. And so the humility of the game is if you lose sight of that and you think I'm this or I'm that, it doesn't work that way. And so when I went pro, I literally went from 1A, starting tight end, to now I was fifth string. In New England, there was only 5 tight ends in New England. That's overnight, right? And you got to start this thing over again and relearn things and get back after it and compete. And so the humble part of it always, you always have to stay, to me, have to stay locked into the process of what am I really trying to accomplish? I'm just trying to get better today than I was yesterday. And when you do that in anything in life, whether it's being a son, a husband, a father, a student, an athlete, whatever work your career you're in, if you're trying to get better each day at your process and what you're trying to accomplish, then to me, you're going to have a really high probability of success when you're doing stuff like that and having that mindset. There's so many great lessons to this game. The hardest part for me was 2 or 3 years ago when, it's a little bit longer than that, but concussions, right? It's serious stuff. We've got to figure out how to make the games. You're never going to make the game safe, but safer, and try to minimize occurrences, try to minimize situations where kids are getting hurt and having concussions and things like that. And we got to do whatever we possibly can as coaches, as administrators, to try to really teach the game better and tackling and all that stuff. But that was my hardest part, trying to manage that process, especially with young kids. I always thought flag football was more physical than youth football because you're actually not wearing any pads. And inevitably kids are basically coming up and try to stop somebody from running that's running full speed, arms and elbows flying, incidental contact, blocking. Inevitably people are getting in the way, having collisions. And I'd rather have them have shoulder pads and thigh pads on if they're going to have these kind of collisions, and maybe have flag football with pads on or something, and try not to acclimate them to putting helmets on in 5th and 6th grade, because you've seen those kids with the helmets running, and the face mask is moving from left ear to right ear, depending on what leg they've got in front running. And so it was a hard thing to work with, and trying to work with parents' concerns and really make sure that we were always trying to teach the rugby tackle the right way and minimizing occurrences in practice, not doing the old Oklahoma drills, things like that. You have to be adaptable. You really have to adapt to the game, to how you're coaching, how you're teaching, all those different things. And I'd like to think that we were really proactive with what we were trying to do injury prevention wise and stuff. But that was the coaching part became more about non-coaching, non-mentoring type things, and it became more of the other stuff. And that's when I just said, maybe this isn't for me anymore, especially if I'm not making $7 million a year doing it. I think I was working as many hours as Coach Ferentz. I just didn't have access to the private jet and the salaries. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I love him. He's great. And I'll tell you, I was on the committee that hired him. I was on the search committee that hired him, and I thought he was phenomenal. I actually said within a week after he took the job, if you can find a coach that can make everybody on the search committee happy, if he wins 5 games, he's an amazing coach. I honestly felt like that. I honestly believed that in my, it was foundation, it was all these different factions of the president's office, all these different things were covered. And I'm like, if you find somebody that makes all these people happy, he's been amazing. He's been amazing. So coach was here when I was younger. He was the old coach. And then the next time I met him, I was at New England with Chris Gamble. If you guys remember, Chris Gamble was an offensive lineman, track guy at Iowa. And so he was at New England with me, and we had an off day on a Tuesday. So we shot up to Maine. Coach was up there at Maine, coaching at Orono, Maine. And man, oh man, we walked into that facility and it was like Regina High School. I hate to say that, but it was weird for college football. I think they've done a better job now, but drove the 5 hours up, went to practice, went to see everybody. And then Mary and him had us out to the house, and they couldn't have been nicer. But they had just moved into the house. I don't think they had a lick of furniture in the house. We slept on the floor in the dining room, I think. But it was great seeing him. And obviously he was successful there, went back, I think, to Cleveland, and then obviously came to Iowa and has been great here. And I guess where I was going with that was just the culture, the young men. I knew, so as a coach, I knew if a kid from Regina was lucky enough to go be a part of the Iowa football program, whether it was a walk-on, preferred walk-on, scholarship guy, it didn't matter. I knew he was going to be treated as he was one of the guys, one of the 120 or 125 or whatever the number is. And I knew he would have just as good as experience if he came in with the right attitude as the number 1 guy or the number 1 ranked guy in that class, as long as he was part of it.
And your son went through there too as well, right?
Yeah. So my oldest went to Iowa, started at quarterback, was doing okay, and then had a really good spring practice one time in West Des Moines Valley. And actually, I was in Virginia with my daughter at a basketball tournament and saw some articles, and they moved to tight end the next day. So how'd you like to be a quarterback at Iowa, competing for the job, to now move to a tight end room that's got TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Sean Byer, who went pro for a year and a half, and then Sam Laporta was coming in the next year. What?
Oh, God.
I thought I had it tough. But he loved the experience. Me and my wife actually told him not to do it, just stay at quarterback. But he's like, dude, I'm all in. I want to be part of this. And Coach asked me to do it. I'm going to do it. And he was all in. He loved his experience with Brian, the tight end coach. He had a great experience with Brian. And I love who's coaching there. And so it turned out to be a really good experience. It's hard to find snaps when you got Fant. And then young Sam Laporta shows up. You know, it's amazing what they've done. Dude, these guys are incredible. Oh, and getting back to Coach Fry, this is like 40 years ago. What we were doing, you know I was Travis Kelce 35 years ago, except I did not have a hot wife who sings. My hot wife can't sing a lick. That's the only difference between me and Travis Kelce. Because I was doing the exact same thing. We traded the tight end, we motioned over, stand on the end of the line of scrimmage so everybody could see me. We were doing that stuff 35 years ago. We were reading coverages, check with me's. A lot of times, if it was cover 2, I was going to the middle. If it was cover 3, I was staying outside. That's a lot of what they're doing. They're giving Kelce the ability to two-way go stuff, choice routes. And that's hard to defend. But we were doing that stuff 35 years ago. We were really innovative, cutting edge. But seriously, I just wish my wife could sing a little bit better. That'd be the only thing that would have made that experience a little bit better for me. She was a multi-platinum rock star,
Billionaire,
country star, I don't care. But she can't sing a lick.
For you.
It's besides the jokes. I was always curious how you seem to always know where to go to get open. So that kind of tells that story then too. I was always like, it felt like you were always really good at finding space. Okay, yeah. I'm going to sit where the defense is not.
There's different combine drills, the 20-yard shuttle, the karaoke, the box drills or whatever. I was really good in that 20-yard shuttle, really quick in and out of breaks. And so a lot of times just that leverage, a change of pace. If you're showing somebody a burst at the top, that it might get them a little defensive, and then you come out of the break a little bit, coming back downhill. And if you come back downhill, now you got even more separation. Just a lot of the nuances of route running led to that. And then a lot of it was just, I'm not gonna lie to you, back in the 80s, you saw cover 2 and you saw cover 3. You saw a couple different coverages. It was pretty basics. Teams just want to line up and play and get after you and think that they were better than you and beat you that way. So you could scheme teams pretty well. And Snyder and that staff, Patterson and those guys were brilliant at scheming teams. Because there was times, honestly, and part of the benefit of standing up was I would line up and I knew the play. And I knew if I saw a look and I saw cover 2, I knew the quarterback was throwing me the ball. I knew it was coming to me. And it just, when you know that and you have that mindset and that perception, you're ready for it. You know where you need to be. He knows where you're going to be, and it all works. But it's part of just that mental preparation and then really taking advantage of what the defense is giving to you. We used to run a square out combination, 3-level combination that used to give like a cover 3. You'd have a drop end would be in charge of flat curl. He couldn't cover the intermediate route. And then the corner was deep third. So we'd push him with the receiver on the outside, and then it left that second level tier. Either the end had to get out underneath that, and then now you have the flat guy open, or he covers the flat guy and got the intermediate guy open. So they couldn't be right on it with that 3-level concept. And so they really had to adjust what they were doing defensively. But we were just incredibly innovative with what we were doing offensively. A lot of that's coaching. I'm not going to lie to you. I did it. Tom Ward did it. Mike Hufford did it. Mike Flagg did it. All the guys that played that position, Chris Knepper, and all those guys, it was just part of the concept of what we were trying to accomplish. 95% of those guys could have done the same thing in the same situation. I wasn't beating guys with speed. I wasn't beating guys with other things. But a lot of times I was beating them with leverage. Like I said, making sure you're coming down off the stem of a route at the top, making sure you're attacking the right shoulder. You don't want to beat a guy twice. If I'm running an out route, I don't want to run back inside a guy because now I got to beat him back outside again. So I want to leverage him. I want to work him. And a lot of times it means even being more patient where I let him deepen. I don't run by him. I let him deepen enough just to work him. And then now I push him up. Now I break out because I'm breaking out when the quarterback, the other thing is being where the quarterback wants you when he wants you there. That's the other key, is having that kind of timing where he's going through his progressions. I'm setting my guy up. Now I'm late. And now I break out. The most I'm going to be open is within that first half a second after breaking away from a guy, because he's going to recover. Those guys are good. They're playing on their side, so they're going to close that gap, come down on me. Later, I can make my move on a guy at the end, the better I am, as long as the quarterback's ready for me when he's ready to get rid of the ball. A lot of it's timing. A lot of it's, like I said, mechanics. A lot of it's change of pace. But most of it's leverage. And then just having the confidence of the quarterback to believe in you that you're going to be there ready for him. And that comes through practice. That comes through reps and making plays when your number's called. So nothing better. Nothing better than a well-executed play. It really is. And honestly, Nick, I marvel at the kicking games now. Brian, I mean, honestly, God, where do these kickers come from? Everybody's kicking at like 80 yards now.
It's unreal.
It's believable. And these punters are sick with this directional kicking. These guys can put it like a yard off the sideline, 55 yards down. They're absolutely nuts how good they are when they can drop that thing in like a wedge where it hits on the 5 and it literally just, this is a 45 yards in the air. The thing hits and literally doesn't bounce. It almost just like deflates almost, it looks like. It's like, what? That is nuts.
Yeah.
Incredible how talented people are. I'm not lying. When I was at Iowa, we had George Murphy, Houtland, the Iowa-Nebraska game, a couple years ago, right? They put some guy in the head kicked all year.
Yeah, ever. Like at Iowa. His only field goal at Iowa.
What? That was a big game, Thanksgiving Day.
Huge.
And he flushed it. It's incredible. The game at Chicago in Wrigley Field, those guys are good. And second, third string guys, they're good too. It's just, I mean, there's talent across the field. You can miss every once in a while on a recruit or something. These kids can play. They're good. They're fun to watch too. As much as I sit there and I say they're fun to watch, I want to complain about them, but they're so good defensively. Phil Parker is like a mad genius. The way it's like, all I can think of is if this would be like if I would feel like I'm trying to get away from, and I got wet blankets all over me. He just smothers everything. There's no place to go with the football. You can't run on him. My favorite thing is watching teams play Iowa. It's like 3rd and a foot or 4th and a foot, and they all think they're going to be able to quarterback sneak the thing. Dude, it never worked. Our defense is so physical up front. Those front 4 guys are so physical up front that you don't do it. Quarterbacks never works against Iowa. I'm telling you, hardly ever. I bet our defense is 90% success rate on that stuff because our defense wants to play in a phone booth, right? They want to get in there and they want to get right in front of the guy that they're competing with and just go after it. And that's what makes them so good. That front 4, to me, as great as our defense seems, it's the front 4 that kind of carries the load for everything we're doing defensively. Our pass coverage stuff allows them to have a nickel because the front 6 guys can just wreak havoc and stop the run and cover what they need to cover up front. And then honestly, they're effective enough with the pass rush that the quarterback never gets to feeling too comfortable back there. They're going to get to him within 3 seconds, usually that front 4. Those guys get after it. And then you throw the crowd noise on it, that makes for a big difference. Okay, I'm trying to block Derek Thomas. Okay, let's just imagine Derek Thomas, an all-pro guy, Kansas City Chiefs. It's so loud you can't hear anything. So I'm looking, I got my hand on the ground looking in at the center, and I got to block a guy that's somewhere over here on the other side in front of me. He can see what's going on. I can't. I'm down here watching the ball. And then the ball snapped, and now I pick my hand up, and I'm looking for Thomas. And is he here? Is he here? Is he here? And then, is he going to try to beat me with speed, or is he just going to power me? Now I think he's going to try to beat me with speed. So now I'm getting really light. I'm trying to get back there and get set and get in his way. Oh, he's deciding he's going with power today. So next thing you're on your backside, and you're hoping he trips over you so he doesn't smash the running back or quarterback. That was not my greatest block, but it gets back to the game, that home field advantage where I was going with it. The crowd noise is just huge. I'm starting to think of Iowa State played in Kinnick, I think last year. The first quarter and a half was just procedure penalties by Iowa State, turnover in the red zone coming out. Iowa had a chance to put that game away in the first 20 minutes and missed some opportunities. But to Iowa State's credit, they recovered and did a good job. Someone asked me about Iowa State. I apologize, Nick. I'm rambling again. So I had a son that went to Iowa State, played there football for 3 years. Loved his experience, loved Coach Campbell. I loved the culture that they were trying to create and had a really good experience. Traveled his freshman year, was part of it. Fished with Brock Purdy almost every day in the summertime. I really loved the quarterback room. So just, he had a great 3 years there, got his degree early. And now works at Principal in West Des Moines, in Des Moines. But yeah, I'm a football fan, and I love Jack Trice. I love the story of Jack Trice. I think we're blessed in Iowa to have Now Kinnick, the story of Now Kinnick. I think of those 2 great programs. I try to say this to as many people as I possibly can. When Iowa and Iowa State plays football, the state of Iowa wins. Because there is, I'm telling you, 22 great dudes on the field almost every snap when you have that game because of the culture of both those programs and what they're trying to accomplish. So I love watching that football game.
Yeah, it helps that program strong, and it's good for the state. And I hope they never drop that. I know there's pressure to do that because of all these conference games and all this stuff, but that's going to be a shame if that ever gets taken away again.
I agree. 2 big special things we're going to splash out there in the news. Okay, one was my NCAA violation that hopefully we don't have to forfeit that season. And the second is, can we change the name of the Big Ten?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know if I need to start a petition or what. I love the games. I love playing Washington. I love playing Oregon. I like playing them in the Rose Bowl. That's what I always wanted to do, is I want to play them in the Rose Bowl. I get it, the money, all that stuff. One of my vivid memories of Iowa athletics was college basketball. Lute Olson coaching, and Steve Waite had a huge bucket. You guys are too young to remember this, but he had a huge bucket, scored to get us to the Final Four. And watched it on my little screen at home with my mom, just sitting on the floor.
As the last shot, or do they? Now let's see what happens. 14 seconds to play in the game. Maybe not in the game, at least in regulation.
They got an advantage.
Boyle looks to Wait.
Oh, what a move by Wade.
And he was fouled. Steve Wait goes to the basket. The score goes. The Hawkeyes lead 80-78. And with 5 seconds to go, he'll go to the free throw line.
And here's the tail end of the play. Watch Wade. The kid from Iowa City goes in, lays it up, gets fouled by Shelton, and this will be the biggest free throw of the year for Wade. It could ice the ball game with 5 seconds.
Going through 2 timeouts, waiting to complete a 3-point play. Iowa could be headed to Indianapolis. Georgetown will try a court-length pass. 4 seconds. They go to Frazier. He shoots. Doesn't go. It's tipped in by Bullis. Goes to Abel. Inbounds. That's it. Inbounds to Ronnie Lester. He touches the ball, and that final fraction of a second is officially concluded. Winds out, and the Iowa Hawkeyes head to Market Square Arena, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Just the excitement in Iowa City. It's an amazing culture here. And I know a lot of colleges have it. I truly do know that, but there's just something special about it. I'm part of a thing called the Garden Club. It's Coach Bump Elliott started it with Earl Murphy. You guys remember Earl Murphy? He had the Bremers downtown.
Yeah.
And so they had it down the old hotel down there at the Ped Mall. It used to be a long time ago. It had like garden wallpaper, so they called it the Garden Club. They'd have lunch there every Friday before home games. So now they got like a membership of like 60 people. The average age is like 85. I literally have to climb over 6 walking things to get up to do. I talk about the home game and the keys to the game. Me and Coach Patterson talk. So I have to climb over 6 of those walkers to get up there. I'm kidding about some of that, but not all of it, but some of it. But for someone like me, every time those guys talk about an experience that they had back in the 70s, back in the early 80s, it's just like a shot of adrenaline to me, just because you can hear it in their voice, talking about the passion of it. They talked about the 81 season when they went to the Rose Bowl, how they needed somebody to beat somebody else for them to qualify to go to the Rose Bowl in the 81 season. And so that happened when they were playing against, I think they were playing Michigan State in Kinnick.
Yeah, I think Ohio State and Michigan had, one of them had to beat the other.
Yeah,
Ohio State had
so
to win or something. I can't remember.
the old press box, not the new one. They were handing down like boxes of roses. And you can see them, people handing them down, cascading down Kinnick State. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But to hear these guys talk about that, and it's, you get it. In the basketball, like I said, that Final Four appearance when Steve Wade made that bucket, just that experience to me growing up and watching on TV. And the sadness to me is that I remember growing up, it was Tuesday night, Saturday afternoon was basketball schedule, Big Ten. So it was turn on CBS or whatever it was that was carrying the game. It was Big Ten was going to have Iowa game on Tuesday night, Saturday afternoon. And you could set your clock by it almost. And now it's Big Ten football's on Thursday night, Saturday. It's all over the place. And it's just, I get it. And it's TV revenue and all that stuff. And now we're going to Rutgers one week, and now we're going to LA the next week to play a game. And to me, there's the history of Iowa, Wisconsin, the history of Iowa, Purdue, the history of Iowa, Minnesota. It's an amazing history. You think of, all of us, we were all a part of that. The brethren of what we joined and what we were able to be a part of is pretty darn cool and pretty special. So when I hear those guys telling their stories, talking about their experiences, and at the end of the day, a lot of those guys are the bell cows of Iowa City. So a lot of those guys, what I talk about, they were the guys that stepped up when Hayden wanted an indoor facility. You guys don't remember that, but when my freshman year there at Iowa, they had no indoor facilities. We were preparing for a bowl game. We were outside in December practicing. It was cold, and he wanted to get a bubble. And he went out and he was pretty adamant about it. Got an indoor facility that Nick probably deflated 3 times with his punts, kicking it up into the plastic, whatever that thing was. You were too young for that, but were you ever part of that? Remember the indoor bubble?
Our bubble? Yeah, we had it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
deflate
that was
that thing a couple times with some of your rocket
We
punch
tried.
up into
I
the?
think over top it from the outside. I
Did
don't
you
know if I'd
really?
hit the inside much. Yeah, usually hit those like long line drive bombs that went 70 yards and were up in the air for 2 seconds. That kind of stuff.
But anyway, these guys were the guys that stepped up, and they're the guys that are in the President's Club, the big donations that Iowa needs and steps up with scholarships and all that stuff. I can't help but every time I stand up in front of them thinking, this, hopefully this resonates with you guys. Those were the guys that allowed us the opportunity to go pursue our dreams and goals in a facility, on a campus, with the tools and resources we need from physical training, physical workouts, facilities that allowed us to pursue our dreams and goals. I can't help but be humbled every time I sit in front of those guys and talk to those guys, because they're a big part of why I came to Iowa. They're a big part of what I wanted to be a part of, and what makes Iowa football and Iowa athletics so special. Those guys that stepped up and wanted to be a part of the culture that Coach Fry and Coach Ferentz are bringing to the table. At the end of the day, giving student athletes like us a chance to pursue our dreams athletically, academically, at a great institutions. That's why I'm a proud member of the Garden Club. I'm very proud to be a part of it. And I'll do it until I can't do it anymore. And next time you guys are in Iowa City, I'll have you guys come be a special guest. We sing, we do a lot of singing, and it's really cool. It's really cool stuff. So a lot of fun.
We'd be honored to be there.
Yeah, it'd be great. The sad thing is probably getting up and talking in front of people is probably more terrifying than playing in front of 70,000 people for us to at least.
The great thing is you talk about the Hawks with these guys, you're good. You're golden.
Stay away from the F-bombs. A huge shout out to Nate Kading and the incredible team at Hamburg Inn No. 2 for revitalizing a true Iowa City icon. This historic spot is back, serving up the comfort food and legendary pies and shakes we all know and love. Whether you're a local or just visiting, make sure to stop by and experience the magic yourself. Check out their story and menu at hamburginnno2.com.
Let me ask you guys, did you guys notice the crowd when you were doing your thing? Or were you just so locked into the ball, the 3-second process of kind of what was going on? Because those are such skills. Punting and kicking are just such specialty skill sets. And I joke because I was a long snapper to some extent. I long snapped a little bit. And I was always really, it hit me towards the end, said, honest to God, the only time they're ever going to notice me as a long snapper is if I screwed up. You know, if I have a bad snap. Otherwise, they'll never notice, right? They'll just, oh, it was good, made the kick, punt got off okay. And the only time they're ever going to know is when I launch it over the guy's head. Then they're going to know my name. They're going to show me, like the guy at Alabama or with Georgia that is trying to watch the game and ends up getting in some guy's way and causes him to give up a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's what it would feel like to be a long snapper to me. But anyway, so I digress. I guess I just was knowing how critical the special teams. The one emphasis I always made with our kids was special teams. They're special for a reason, right? That's a cheesy saying, but we will diagram a play and work on it for 20 minutes to gain 5 yards, right? Guard blocks this guy, tackle here, guard kicks out here, the fullback comes up, blocks this guy. We can get them all accounted for. They tackle it for a 6-yard gain. That's a good win, right? When Nick punts it, that ball's traveling 60 yards. If we're working as much as we are to try to get 4 yards on a running, maybe we should focus on that play. Maybe we should focus on that 60-yard kick or that 50-yard kick or that punt return or kick return. And that's why, like, when we don't fair catch kickoffs, what are we doing? Let's go score. If you score on a special team play, the chances of you winning the game statistically go through the roof. It's unbelievable. The charts on that stuff. Try to really change the momentum of games and get some skilled guys that really can. And to me, the game is becoming a big play game. You know, these guys are so athletic now. The team that can take that 2-yard pass and go 60 yards for a touchdown, just the Iowa game against, I'm trying to think of what team it was when we hit the swing route to the back. Broke like 13 tackles and scored a touchdown. You get guys that can make guys miss, hit home runs in this game. I think that's the way the game's going, to be honest with you, is the big plays. And so that's why I get excited when I see guys returning kicks. I see guys returning punts. some of these new rules with what the NFL is trying to incorporate into football, just to me is taking away some of the game. It's taking away the big plays. Guys like Devin Hester, the special teams guys that were just so good. To me, we're getting rid of that part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. You asked about the crowd noise. Ohio State at their place, it was loud enough where the sound was actually bouncing off the sound. So it was like this whoa kind of thing. I remember that when we were trying to go into score, I think, or it was like on the 5-yard line, and we didn't have a cadence or anything. So just like I got in there and the ball was coming to me at some point, right? I had to be ready for something to come at me. And I think the one time I do remember that I got a punt block, the crowd told me that it was blocked. And so it was just like, I hear this huge crowd noise and I was like, oh God, this isn't good. But other than that, I think it was so just locked in, and I'd almost like black out and be like, okay, that was good or bad. It's it just happens so fast, and you're just like muscle memory and those things. But you definitely can feel it, right? If you're back in the goal line and people are just like right behind you, just And I guess some of it's a focusing mechanism too, of right. If you get that kind of intensity, you're just like, all right, there's not much else to pay attention to except for what is going on in the immediate future right now.
Yeah. We were ranked number 1 actually at the time. We just beat Michigan 12-10 in Kinnick, which was incredible. Houghton kicked a game winner at the end, but we ended up playing Ohio State a couple weeks later, and we were ranked number 1, and it was raining. I remember being on the sideline trying to put my fingers in my ears because it was so loud, to the point where it hurt a little bit. It was reverberating through the stadium, and the crowd noise was amazing. Quick story on that game. So I was like 4th string tight end, and we ran a lot of 2 tight ends. So game's going on, and I think Mike Flagg tweaked an ankle or something. So I'm like, okay, I better be ready. If we go goal line or something, 3 tight ends, I better be ready to go in. And the next thing I know, Craig Clark had something go on with a hand or something. So he's out. I'm like, I'm sitting here literally, if they go 2 tight ends, I'm in the game. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm excited or if I'm freaked out about it. And I'm more freaked out, I think, because I'm like, we were ranked number 1 in Columbus. Pepper Johnson's over there. These guys are good.
Oh, Pepper? Nice. I know Pepper.
I'm almost sitting there, please go 1 tight end, 1 tight end. And they call deuce, which is 2 tight ends or whatever. I can't remember when it was 52 blank. And I'm like, okay. In the huddle, I'm literally, my right knee is bouncing, and I'm trying not to show people that I'm freaking out, scared, and trying to control my emotions. And so we're running 52 blank. So I line up, go through my checklist with Coach Patterson. So it's, if the tackle goes away, I got to look for a scraping backer. But now I'm double teaming with the tackle, and I'm going up to the play side linebacker, not the far side, the play side. So the tackle doesn't go away. So I'm doubling, and all of a sudden now I come off, and I'm looking. Here comes Pepper Johnson, linebacker, downhill on me. And I'm coming off the tackle, and I trip over the tackle, the D tackle, and I fall right into Pepper Johnson's hip. And I just muddle it a little bit. And then Ronnie Harmon hits it right in behind me, gains like 5 yards. And I'm like, dude, it was away. I'm like, dude, I did it. It wasn't perfect. And it was at that moment that I believed I could. But it was at that moment that I said, I can do this. I want to do this. I want this to be it. And it's interesting, the progression of my experiences, because I go from not playing a year to now you're playing mop-up duty, to that was my first legit Big Ten game, games on the line, snap, right? Not the 3s in, not the 4s in. And then, like I said, I didn't mess it up. I didn't muddle it up, but I tripped up and stumbled into the guy, and it worked. And it was at that point that I was like, I can do this. I can make it better. I can get better. I can accomplish this. I can play this game. I can do this game. And it was part of the progression of my growth there as a player. And I don't know if you guys ever been, I mean, I was freaking out scared. I was scared, nervous, excited. And I physically was showing it because my knee could not stop shaping. But as soon as that play was over, I was ready. And I wanted to go back in. I never got back in because the other 2 guys were back. But it was at that moment I said, I got this. I'm ready. I can do this. I'm good. So I never had that anxious, nervous, scared feeling ever again when I was playing at Iowa. Just always excited about the opportunity to wear the Tiger Hawk on my helmet. Hopefully the fans understand the true passion of it. I mentioned the Michigan game. First game with lights, I think, is what they talked about. They brought in the Musco lighting. I won that game for us. I made a tackle on a kickoff. Me and Kenny Sims tackled a guy so he couldn't score a touchdown. I think they ended up scoring a touchdown anyway, but I like to tell the story that I won the game for us, but that tackle. But we kicked the game winner, and the crowd storms the field. And as you guys all know, the worst thing you can do is have guys with rings hit your helmet, pat you on the helmet, because it's like the loudest noise ever. But to have whatever it was, 20,000 people, 15,000 people storm the field and celebrate that victory with us was just truly amazing. And it was a 1-versus-2 game actually at the time. Michigan and Iowa ranked 1 and 2. Pretty cool.
At least you didn't blow your knee out celebrating.
Yeah, Mark Vlasic.
Can you imagine? Oh,
I never do get that. Like watching pro baseball or college baseball where they all pile on top of each other. And it's like, dude, one, they got metal cleats. I'll just take some guy stepping on a hand or something. And then two, I don't know if they all wear metal cleats now. Haven't you seen enough of that to realize someone's going to get hurt? Someone's going to break an arm or something happens when you do those big dog piles at the end of games. But yeah, that was bad. Man, Mark got hurt on that, and it wasn't a good thing.
So did you realize the gravity of the situation at the moment? Huge moments for the program. Iowa City had to be just going insane, wasn't it?
It was always interesting because you go through practice. And I tell people this story. I bet if you guys had boat horns go off, like in consecutive, your body would almost instinctively go do something because you're such a habit of routine, right? You know, I'm talking about the practice schedule.
Yep.
6 minutes in, we're going to blow the horn. Now you
For
go
sure.
do this stretch. Now we're going to blow the horn. Now we go to special teams. Now we're going to blow the horn. We go to and you become this creature of habit and routine. You'd be practicing on a Friday or Thursday, or I think it was a Friday, and all of a sudden you hear Brent Musburger's voice. And it's like Coach Patterson, like, what? I think I heard Brent Musburger. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Brent. And then you knew you were in a game. Oh my God, because this guy only is calling big games.
Yeah.
And it was those types of moments. And so it gets back to what you're saying. It was huge. It was 1-versus-2. And this is a program that 5 years earlier was downtrodden. It was the big 2, little 8. And Coach Fry was trying to break down that wall and change the culture and the perception of what the Big Ten was. And we were on the verge of it. And that was a big part of it. Having that win against Bo Schembechler. It's the other thing. Bo Schembechler was over there. I'm 19, looking across. I probably spent more time looking over to see where Bo was. Oh my God, that's Bo Schembechler over there. I'm trying to tell anybody to listen to me. And that's the other cool thing about Iowa, Kinnick. I tell my kids this all the time. I said, think of who you watch play on the other sidelines. The players that have been on the other side, these dudes are good. Saquon Barkley playing when he was, and that guy was unbelievable. He was doing that backwards hurdle against Iowa like 8 years ago that he did this last season. The guy's phenomenal. But just getting back to your story, though, yeah, it was big. It was, like I said, the culture was, and it's not like it is now. It's this whole thing where I started 90 minutes ago, and I apologize, was when I was in college, if I had a day off, I didn't want anybody knowing what I was doing. And now if I was on Twitter, I'd be like, hey, look, I'm having pasta primavera from Basta. Or, look at me, come. And it's like, what? It's a different mindset. It's a different culture. That's so not what we were back in the 80s. We were probably missing out on it. But when I had a free 6 hours, I wanted to enjoy my free 6 hours. I didn't want to be doing things or something, which is probably my mistake. I joke that I spent 5 years in Boston, and my daughter was out there for a year, and she did more than 1 year than I did in 5 years. She was going to Maine, Newport, Connecticut. If I had my day off, I was like, I'm going to be sitting on my couch with my feet up. And in hindsight, I'm like, God bless it. I probably should have went and saw where that shot heard around the world was. I probably should have went and visited that place. I'm like 20 minutes away from it, and I never went and saw it. But anyway, so it's a different culture, different mindset with all this NIL stuff, unfortunately. But I keep waiting for the first network that when they show this game statistics, okay, third down conversion percentage, passing yards per attempt, annual salary from the NIL per player.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. I think someone said Ohio State had 20 guys making over $1 million in NIL.
Yeah, they spent
That's
almost 40, didn't they?
Statistic. I would like to know if I got a team that's averaging like $40,000 a player, who do you think's going to have a better advantage if they're paying? It's crazy to me where this has gone in such a short period of time. Because literally, and seriously, thank you guys again for unleashing that pent up guilt I've been holding for 38 years.
$20.
I cannot tell you how much that really, it freed me. It's freeing for me. But and now you see this and it's what? It would be refreshing if it was and I think they're trying to get to it, but that's where I guess we go from this thing where it was so stringent 5 years ago. And you guys know this for a fact. If the coach couldn't give you a ride from the complex to Hillcrest to eat dinner, it was a violation to give a kid a ride in the rain. Are you kidding me? That's where we were 20 years ago. To now, it's the movie Blue Chip. All that was terrible in athletics is now just, that's perfect. Yeah, give them a tractor, give them cash, give them house. Now it's the norm, and it's the way it is, and it's an unlimited arms race. If someone's willing to pay the money in NIL money to people, the programs have it. They need to figure this thing out because this is just going to get worse. And at some point, my concern is, am I really watching University of Iowa football? What's the requirement that someone's going to class? Is that the new requirement that they got to be here for one semester? So that's my concern, is that the game, and here's the evolution of football. 3 or 4 years ago, I watched the Heisman Trophy presentation. 4 quarterbacks, 5 athletes. The 3 of the 4 quarterbacks had to leave their program to play. Burrows, Justin Fields, I can't remember the other one. They started at one program, left to go to another program, okay? Which is all well and good. And I get it, the transfer and all that stuff and flexibility. But now kids are going to 3 different programs in 4 years. And so now I know why the NFL on Sunday and Monday night, when they announce the players, they announce their high school. Because most of these guys have got 2 or 3 different colleges. Is this where we're going with this? And if it is, it's not the way I like to see college athletics. It's not the way I like to see these institutions, the history of the game. I'm a purist. I don't want to be that way. But we've got to reel this back a little bit because this is getting crazy. I'm going to root for a guy that was at South Dakota last year, and I'm going to root for a guy that was at Michigan, who, by the way, 6 months ago, we all hated. And I don't mean hate, you know what I'm saying? As a fan, you're like, well, this is great. I got to cheer for McNamara and Eric or whatever. And I did. I love him to be a part of Iowa football, but it's just, you hope it gets back to the student athlete, and you hope the kids buy into the fact that it is the culture, it is the 4-year experience of being on the campus, walking across the river, seeing the sunset on Finkbine Stadium or Finkbine Golf Course, Slater Hall, Hillcrest, all those experiences that we had, walking the Pentecrest. It really is a beautiful campus. It really is a gorgeous campus to walk around, especially at suntime with sunsets with the river and everything. And to me, anybody that gets a chance to be a student here is blessed, but to be a student athlete here is truly blessed, and to have that experience, especially with the fan base that we have.
Well said.
All right. I've been terrible. I apologize, guys. I got going. My wife just came home. She helped my son move in Ames to Ankeny. And she's like peeking in on me going, what? I haven't seen you this giddy and excited. And
I love it. We're getting vintage Marv Cook. This is amazing.
You haven't seen me this giddy and excited since we got married. That's
awesome.
how excited I am to be with you guys. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming
Appreciate having you on.
Let's fast forward to the journey to the NFL. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can. It's interesting for me because, like I said, I literally transitioned again from All-American to 5th string. When I went out to New England at minicamp, I ended up getting a stress fracture in my foot. So I had to have surgery. I had a screw put in my foot. I missed the first 3 weeks of training camp. And I was terrible my first year. I was terrible, really bad. And to the point where we played the Dolphins in week 16, or week 14, I think it was 14 games at the time. And after the game, Kevin Mannix, I vividly remember it, wrote an article about each player, wrote like a report card for each player, 45 guys, 47 guys on the roster. And I was one of 2 guys that got an F. I was a wasted draft choice. I would never make the transition from the stand-up tight end to the down tight end. It wasn't a good fit. And it was, read that on Christmas Eve. Okay. That's brutal. But there was a lot of truth to it. I had a terrible year. So I came back to Iowa City and I went back to work, went back to doing the things that I felt like I needed to do to get better and to try to make sure that I was going to give everything I had to it. So the next year I went out and actually had a good camp, actually really had a pretty good year, caught 51 balls, and it was all great. And then the next year caught 82 balls. And so I had a Pro Bowl year, had a great deal. I'm not going to get into the story. I've told the story too many times. I had 4 coaches in 5 years in New England. I started with Raymond Berry, Hall of Fame coach, player. He got fired. We went 6-10. And this is 4 years off the Super Bowl against the Bears. So they were good 3-4 years earlier and had talent. And a lot of those guys were still on this team. There were some great football players. Steve Grogan. They fired Raymond Berry. Then they brought in a guy named Rod Rust, who was actually a Cedar Rapids guy. His mom lived in Cedar Rapids. He was the Pittsburgh Steelers coordinator, big defensive guy. And we struggled. We had a terrible year that year. And then they fired him. And then they brought in Dick McPherson, who was the Syracuse coach for the next 2 years. Great coach, great experience. I had a good deal with him. And then they let him go, and they brought in Bill Parcells my 5th year. So I had 4 coaches in 5 years, 4 different offenses in 5 years. It was tough. It was hard because New England they are just a sports town. It's a sports deal, and they love their sports. I got picked up at the airport right before minicamp, and a guy had this huge duffel bag in the back of his Nissan Pathfinder or something. I'm like, what is that? And it was a hockey bag. And you guys are younger than me, so I'm gonna tell you what. 40 years ago, I'd never seen a hockey stick or hockey skates, or I'd never seen like a true hockey game other than TV or whatever. And so it was huge out there, and so it was culture shock for me. But I loved it, and it was out. Foxborough's like 50 minutes from Boston down south, and it's a lot of small towns, which I loved about it. And I just fell in love with the place. I had a great experience. Parcells came in. I was coming off a Pro Bowl year, and he literally pulled me in. He was on the job 2 weeks, literally pulled me in, sat down and says, I think I'm going to start Ben Coates this year. He's a really talented young player. What? I mean, that hurts. I was just in Hawaii 2 months ago. But honest to God, I knew he was right. I knew he was right, and he was honest with me, and I loved that about him. And he was a straight shooter. And Ben Coates ended up having 7 Pro Bowls and was a great player. And literally, when he showed up, he was a Division II player from Livingstone College. Great guy, by the way, good friend. And he showed up, and within a week, I was calling my agent saying, you need to find me another job because this guy's a freak. This guy's incredible. This guy's really good. And that's no lie. I called him and told him that. And I held him off for a couple of years. But Parcells was right. I loved playing for Parcells. The game's weird in that I was coming up for free agency, and I should have just stayed at New England, hung it out. Of course, I'd have won 3 Super Bowls with Parcells, but I decided to leave like a brilliant idiot. And so I ended up going to Chicago, played in a year with Chicago with Wannstedt, and then I finished up my career. I signed with the Los Angeles Rams. I literally went out there, did a workout with the LA Rams. 2 weeks later, when they made the commitment to move to St. Louis, I ended up playing my last year in St. Louis with the Rams. But I had a great experience. Really got to know some great people. And the one message I do want to bring on with this, made some comments earlier about Michigan, and sometimes the fan base gets a little too, we got to hate these guys. And so when I first got to New England, my second year, they drafted a guy named Greg McMurtry, a guy that wore number 1 at Michigan. If you wear number 1 at Michigan, you're the real deal. They don't give that number to just anybody. And Greg McMurtry was the real deal. And not only as a player, but as a guy. This guy became one of my best friends in the league, had a locker next to me. So I gave him the cold shoulder for probably 2 weeks, being the idiot that I am. And you get to know him, and you're like, dude, this guy's amazing. I cannot believe I actually maybe didn't like him 3 years ago when he was playing at Michigan, or it felt like I didn't like him. And it's just like, what are we doing? And so that's when I get back to, like when Regina, my school, high school, played my alma mater, West Branch. I tell people it's a huge rivalry, and sometimes it gets so just not good with language and just people making too much out of it, instead of realizing two of my nephews are over there playing. I'm coaching against my nephews, right? I love those guys. I literally love those guys over there. They're good guys. That's my alma mater. And so we get carried away, and you just realize that when Michigan's Iowa, and so now when I watch an Iowa State-Iowa game or a Michigan-Ohio State game, I try to just look and say, at the end of the day, we got to cut through this a little bit and realize that I guarantee those are good guys, all just trying to win the game. And hopefully we can all get back to that thing at the end of the game where we line up on the 50 and we truly shake their hand and say, hey, that was fun. That was a good game. I enjoyed that. And if you can have those experiences with the game, I think we're doing more right than we're doing wrong at the end of the day. So hopefully we can keep seeing more positive signs in that part of it. But anyway, that's my real quick version with the NFL.
Who was the different players you saw that were just like, wow, these people are just different, built different than the rest of us?
Reggie White, Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, Derek Thomas, a guy named Henry Jones from the Bills was a safety, I think from the University of Illinois. There were certain guys when you played, like Barry Sanders is a guy that when I was off the field, I didn't go sit on the bench. I was watching Barry Sanders play. John Elway, guys like that, Dan Marino. That was my era. And they make you look really bad. I played on a Monday night game in Chicago. It was 33 degrees, 40-mile-an-hour winds, pouring down rain. We're warming up and playing catch from 10 yards away. I would catch maybe 3 out of 10 balls. It was just brutal. It was so cold, so windy that the ball was just moving literally 6 feet by the time it moved 10 yards to get to you. I go in right after warm-up, sit next to my locker. But by the way, Greg McMurtry came to Chicago the year I was there too, sitting next to me. And I looked at him and I said, I don't care if I play another down of football for the rest of my life. And I meant it. I was so miserable cold and did not want to be there that night. It was so bad. And then I had to go out and try to block Bryce Pop, who was a UNI guy, was an all-pro guy with the Packers, Reggie White, and Sean Jones, freak defensive ends. And I was like, I'm getting thrown in the mud. And then Reggie's throwing some church song on me as he's throwing me down, being nice about it. But dude, you can at least be mean, kick me or spit on me or something. And he's like, no, he helps me up. It's like, you're just going to put me right back there 20 seconds from now. What are you doing? That's the great thing about the game. The game's humbling. Everybody's good. Everybody's great. And you're going to be humbled by it. And if you think you're perfect, if you want to be perfect, that's the great thing about baseball and football is it's an imperfect game. You're just trying to play as clean and as good as you possibly can over and over. You try to add up the positive plays, add up the negative plays, and hopefully at the end of the game you got more positive than negatives and you got a bigger score on the scoreboard. But you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect at this game or a lot of things in life. But the sooner people get that understanding that they're going to be better and have a better life with their mentality and all that stuff. But that's I abbreviated my NFL career because that's how it went.
Let me ask you this question. This is probably a little personal. We all have this baggage that we hold on to from years past of we should have done this, things should have been different, all those things. You played for 7 years. You were a couple-time All-Pro. You were at the top of the game, right? What do you think should have happened? Why are you abbreviating your NFL career?
Okay,
are you being humble?
You want the honest God truth? Honest to God truth.
Yes, please.
When Coach Brazier and they decided to move me to tight end at Iowa, I should have said no. I should have stayed at quarterback. I would have coached the Patriots. They would have won 8 Super Bowls, and you would have never heard the word Tom Brady. You would have never heard of the name Tom Brady.
All right.
I would have been that good. I would have been that good at quarterback if I'd have stayed at quarterback.
All right.
And Nick, the sick thing is I honestly almost believe that. I really felt like I was pretty good at it when I was 16, 17 years old.
You have to, right? You have to have that resilience. You have to have that like unfathomable belief, right? You have to, don't you? I mean, to do what you've done, right?
100%.
You have to show up and be like, I can do this no matter what happens, right? People write shit about you in the newspaper. Coach yells at you. You have to have that, don't you?
If there was one thing that I would tell people that you have, and that's where the preparation part of it comes. If you believe, if you know that you've done the things like we talked about. So Regina, when our team, the kids team, when they lined up to play against Pleasant Valley on a Friday night, week 2 of the season, they believed that they had a chance. They believed that they could go out and get after it and play, and they believed that we could win. And it's one of those things where 99 out of 100 times you may not have, but they had prepared. They had done everything we'd asked. They'd done all that stuff that we talked about, the pre-work that needs to go into that whole process. They did all that. So when it was time to play, they could play free, mentally, no worries, no concerns, just let it go, have fun. The outcome is the outcome, but I've done everything I can to be here right now in this opportunity, and I'm gonna try to make the best of it. That's the whole thing with the NFL, that you have to have that inner confidence that's the case. I joke and I smile and I laugh and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, I sit there and I honestly think about it, that, like I said, if my wife was a great singer is one thing, but I could have married a supermodel maybe, right? Maybe you'd never heard of Giselle. You'd heard of some other supermodel that was married to Marv Cook. I did marry a supermodel, by the way. I feel good about that one. So. I outkicked my coverage, guys.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say,
Use a specialist term. I outkicked my coverage.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But Nick, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm going to tell you right now, these kids nowadays, they are deluged with social media, with instant feedback, good or bad. And it's just, I can't even imagine. If someone said something hurtful to me, I mean, before we got on air, I used to do color.
Yeah, sure. I was curious about that for sure.
You know, with Iowa football games or Indiana, Purdue games, and people would make comments about my haircut. And it hurt. It hurt my feelings. I was like, oh my God, lazy boy was saying something negative about my haircut. I didn't know the guy, but it hurt me a little bit. And I can't even imagine being the starting quarterback or the starting point guard, and something happens where the game goes against you and you make a couple mistakes or something, and then you're just going to the website and you're just getting crushed. I can't even fathom what you're playing for, a program that you love and you wanted to be a part of, and yet the fans are not turning against you, but they're busting your chops about it, right?
Really? Yeah.
And hopefully 90% of the fan base gets it. The 3 hours that they see us on Saturdays, they don't see the 38 hours of actual physical prep work during the week, rehab, ankle tapes, treatments, film study, all that other stuff that we go through, get ready for that game. They don't necessarily see that. They just see the 3 hours, and then they're going to judge us for something that happened, right? And a lot of times they just lose sight of the fact that other guy on the other side of the field, he's pretty good. The guy that made that play and won that battle is a pretty darn good player. It's not that I made a mistake. Sometimes they just got on the right side of it, or the ball got tipped here or whatever, and that stuff happens. And that's the beauty of the game, in my opinion. But when I get back to the player side of it, all that social media stuff, it would be hard to be a student athlete. It would be hard to be the one taking the brunt of that stuff. I admire the quarterback at Iowa, Spencer Petras. That guy was getting crushed, and this guy could play. This guy was a high-level player in California, great player, beat Jared Goff's records, I think. Last I checked, Jared Goff's a pretty good player. So Spencer's a pretty good football player, and he was getting crushed in some of these chat rooms and stuff. And I just hate to see that. I get back to why we need to cheer for our guys instead of cheer against their guys. I played athletic, but booing, and why can't we cheer for our guys and hope for our guys to do great, and leave it at that and support it versus just complaining about every officiating call or whatever. And I get it, be loud. I get it, be loud when the other team's on the field, but I've been to games. Well, here's a perfect example. I could bust up both sides of this. I've been to games where, like, I love college traditions, right? Wisconsin, the jump around, end of the third quarter, all that stuff. Big tradition guy. So I was at a game when the team that lost was on the road, and their band plays a beautiful song at the end of the game, and the team's all together. And it's those teams, it's like the cheer, right? At the end of every game, we get together, we do a cheer. We all get together. We're alumni of this program. We're all part of this program. The fans, the cheerleaders, the players, the staff all get together, put their arms around each other. Notre Dame do it, other programs do it. And when they're doing the song, the home team decides to let out an F-based chant chastising the other program. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you just beat the other program, which is great. It's a great win, but we got to go there. We can't celebrate. We can't. Our celebration is to go call these guys bad names when they're playing their cool song at the end of the game. And it's like, what are we doing? We just lost our minds with this stuff. But then you turn around and you watch the team now does it to the next team. I was at another game where I watched Iowa walking into the stadium, and a 20-year-old college kid, drunk, obviously, 35-year-old young adults, 60-year-old grandpas, dropping F-bombs going, you're going to, what? 60 Iowa kids are coming in to play football at some stadium, and some 60-year-old guys dropping F-bombs on them. You suck. You guys are so full. What are we doing? This is just so bizarre to me. It gets away from just what I love about the game so much, and that's just thinking of now Kinnick play the game. I was thinking of the Ironman, and I'd like to think that stuff wasn't going on. The best part about that documentary, I'm not plugging this documentary. I don't have a dog in the fight, and I don't get paid for it. If you watch it, watch Kinnick Stadium the one year, and there's no one at the game. There's like 6,000 people there. To when now Kinnick's going for the Heisman, it's packed. Everybody's wearing a suit, like a suit with a tie and like these cool hats. Yeah. And it's like, dude, and the old Model T cars out front, it is the coolest. And I'm like, oh my God, I would give anything to go back and spend 2 Saturdays in Iowa City back when they were playing. It was amazing. I wish, I don't know. I'm sorry, guys, but I get passionate about it because I saw a lot of it in high school. I'd see it filter down. Like, you go to a high school game, you go to an Iowa basketball game, when they do the thing where they announce the other team and then everybody else sucks at the same time. It's like college. And now they're doing it at high school games. They're modeling what they saw at Carver Hawkeye at a high school volleyball game when they're announcing their team, or they turn their back to them, read the newspaper, which is cute and clever a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, that's a 16-year-old girl playing high school volleyball. And what are we doing? I mean, we've lost our way a little bit. I'm going to take so much grief for this. You guys have a chat room. I'm probably getting lit up. Like, you guys need to.
That guy's hair. What's up with this guy's hair? There needs to be.
My nickname online is like Big Daddy Z or something. So Nick, you look for the comments. Okay, I'm gonna be busting you up here later.
I'm gonna go on and roast him.
Yeah. I hope the people that listen to this understand the integrity of the game. The other story I'll tell you that I love about Coach Fry is you'd go into practice and they'd have a press conference and Coach Fry would be in the meeting and you'd be, oh, we're so beat up. We're so beat up. I don't know if we're going to be able to field a team. Our center's out. Our backup center's sick. He's got the flu. I don't know if we're going to be able to play. And they're so good. They got 5-star guys all across the board or something. And within 8 minutes, we'd be in the locker room getting ready for a practice and Coach Fry's coming in and he'd be like, you guys, we're going to kick their. And it's like he had the innate ability of just communicating, telling the media. I felt like we were going to win every game that I ever stepped on the field with the Tiger Hawk helmet on my head. I truly believed it. The coaches, Coach Patterson, all those guys gave us that sense of confidence and belief in ourselves that we were prepared. And if we went out and played well, we would have a chance to do it. And it kind of gets back to full circle a little bit. That's all you ever want as an athlete, is an opportunity to compete and try to really show your skill set and to try to help your team win. And to be able to do that on Saturdays in Iowa City at Kinnick Stadium is pretty darn special. And across the Big Ten. Or what are we going to come up? We're going to come up with a new name for the Big Ten, Brian?
Yeah, it's just going to have to be something like the Big Conference or something. Yeah. You got to drop the numbers because that's just
huge
moving term.
Yeah, the huge 16 or something. Yeah, I don't.
25.
It gets back to, like I said, I used to think they brought me down just to bring the average age down, but now I'm actually probably hurting the average age because I'm getting older and I'm starting to get crankier on some of my beliefs and stuff. It's definitely harder to be an athlete now. When the Texas quarterback, you guys saw this statistic or this reality, he signed his 4-year contract with whatever team he signed with, right? Quinn Ewers, 4-year contract. The total value is what he would have made if he'd have stayed 1 more year in college in NIL money. They said some teams would have ponied up over $4 million for him. And that's his 4-year contract. Think of that. I think you're going to see more kids stay in college for another year, especially when that's the case. Just because the money is just, there's no salary cap in college athletics right now. And if someone's willing to pony up the money, the kids will take it.
Yeah, there's like good changes, but a lot of these things are not good changes for the sport. And it's very business driven, money driven, and that gets completely away from the whole goal of it. So we're open for change. There's things that have been done for safety reasons, and that's good progress. But the stuff where it's just open checkbooks and turning it into a professional league, it's going to turn viewers away. And if the viewers go, there goes the money for the TV, and it ruins the product. And yeah, we're at a very difficult point here that it needs to start turning back to some level ground. It's gone way too extreme, and I'm worried that it's not going to change back quick enough. And
Chip Kelly gave up being the head coach at UCLA to become a coordinator at Ohio State.
I know.
Tells you where the state of the union is, state of college football.
Wow, that was wild.
But he was making a comment, and it was so true, that the NIL, college athletics, the NIL intent was for Caitlin Clark, right? Someone comes to the University of Iowa as a student athlete at the University of Iowa, let them make money. If they can make money while they're here representing the university or doing what they do, let them do it. But 95% of the NIL is now recruiting. It's just, let's put these collectives together. And now these high school kids come on campus. Some of these kids aren't going to visits unless they get paid. They're not going to take a visit to a campus unless the college is going to pay them $10,000 to come. And so it's a recruiting tool. How much am I going to get versus come be a part of the program, be a student athlete here. And oh, by the way, yeah, you're good. So go do this car dealership, make this money and do endorsements with Nike or whatever. That's what, to me, the intent was. And it just hasn't worked out that way, unfortunately. And it's too bad. And like the coaches are saying, now you have to recruit your kids every year, which isn't a bad thing. But the part of the beauty of the old ways was that it was that process, right? Didn't play down, played some mop-up duty early. Then I got one really legit play my second year, which was one of the coolest experiences of my entire life, athletically. I tripped over a guy and whatever, thought it was a great deal. Then the third year, I play a little bit more. And the fourth year, now I'm starting. And there was a development, a growth part of it. And now these kids are coming in that if they're not guaranteed a starting job and they're not guaranteed a playing time, that they won't even consider coming to the school. And then you throw the money factor in on that. It really is unfortunate that's where we're at. But hopefully the NCAA, the universities can get it back under control and try to figure out a way. But my concern is that you're going to have the haves and have-nots. You're going to have 20 to 25 schools that step up, really lean into this. And now you're going to have kids that are players for hire that are coming to campus because they're getting paid. And it's going to become a version of semi-pro football. Hope that's not the case, but we'll see.
And I do think you have a serious point about the kind of recalibration of sportsmanship in general, right? It's gotten so out of hand that there needs to be like a come to Jesus moment, for lack of a better term, of being like, yeah, what are we doing here? What is this for?
Yeah.
What is acceptable? What can a fan say to a player? And those things, right? It's just gotten way out of hand.
Yeah.
I remember going to Raiders games and like listening to the stuff they'd say about my brother. And I was like, this is it's insane. It's threatening to kill somebody's grandma because you have the other jersey on. You're like, it's crazy.
Now Kinnick's speech at the Heisman, they played in Kinnick Stadium, and it's just, let's listen to the message. Let's listen to the stories. Let's read some of these letters. Let's really buy into. I had kids play it at a high level, and just to know that nowadays it's so critical. And back when I played, you had 3 publications, 3 people were writing about you, right? And that was it. Now you go home. I don't do Instagram. I don't do Facebook and all that, Twitter and all that stuff. I don't do that. But now you could do something and you could have 150 comments within like 10 minutes. Is that how it works? If you got a lot of followers,
You could have 10,000
it's
comments.
so instantaneous. It's just mind-blowing to me. And it's just amazing to me to think that 21-year-old kids who, and you guys know the story. I think you guys came through. That's the other great thing about living in Iowa City. I think I played with you guys. Every class that ever came in, I feel like, oh yeah, I know Brian. He was a good kicker. But I think I played with Brian a couple. I think we overlapped a couple of years there, right? It doesn't matter who the players. I still feel like, yeah, I've seen him on campus. I've seen him walk by here or whatever, and so I feel like I'm a part of it. And so I feel like we have this brethren and this a lot of common ground, right? We chewed a lot of the same dirt, did a lot of the same things, and had part of that process. And so I know, and you guys, there's 98% of the group of guys are just great dudes. They're good human beings. They're good people. They care for others. They're appreciative. They want to do great things, want to represent themselves, their family, the state, each and everything they're doing. And we all make mistakes. But I think at the end of the day, 98% of us are really on the same path, trying to represent and trying to do great things for this university. But to see guys just get lit up, it just breaks my heart to some extent to see. And then to really, when you get to know the guys, you get to know, the players personally, it's like, I cannot believe that this is happening. I cannot believe some of these things that are being said about this player. And Nick, I appreciate you jumping in there and deal. When I was in high school, we tried to do crossovers. We hosted someone at Iowa City. And so we let our cross-country teams, our cross-country team went up to Solon. Both teams carried the football down from Iowa City. They jogged for practice, both teams across country. Iowa and Iowa State, that with the National Guard and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a great crossover. We let their play-by-play guy call the second quarter of the game from our stadium in the press box. We let the other team's play-by-play guy call the game. And we just wanted to have kind of a crossover and do as many things like that as possible, just to truly show it's about the experience. It's about all the other stuff that goes with it. And at the end of the game, yeah, someone's going to win and lose, but if we do it right, we all win to some extent. It's a great experience for everybody. And the more opportunities we can do with things like that, I think the better off we are. I think it's just, like I said, I've been in stadiums when I've heard people cussing about my kids or booing my kids, or you suck. How come you suck? You can't play. Things like that. That it's hopefully, yeah, it's just amazing that happens. That people don't get it. I'm lucky that my wife is the first one that steps up and nixes that. She's pretty good at dropping the hammer on something.
Sure.
Mama Bear doesn't put up with that stuff, but just I'd like to think that we will, but we'll see. I admire all the student athletes that come here because, like I said, 99% of them are coming to pursue their dreams academically, athletically, trying to do the best possible thing they can for their team and their program, and to have anything other than thank you for trying or thank you for doing it. I always used to talk to our kids all the time about the difference between the runner-up trophy and the championship trophy. Not that much. I mean, that's what it is. There's a lot of times it's a bounce. The ball hit the post. If that's 1 inch to the right, it's in. It bounces in. It doesn't make it. It wasn't a great attempt. 55-yard field goal hits the crossbar, hits the post, and this guy sucks. And it's what? It's so ironic to me that how much I listen to some podcasts and some of these guys talk about when someone is all in on a program like that, and they're like the guy that poisoned the tree down in where's that Toomer's Corner or whatever, the Alabama guy that Alabama got beat and he poisoned the tree. The other team that celebrated with throwing the toilet paper over the, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. So Alabama lost, and the fan was so upset about it that he went down where the other team was celebrating and poisoned this 120-year-old tree in the middle of downtown. He put the poison in it and killed it. And it's what?
I always
Thank
feel
you.
like it's the people that didn't play sports. Those are the people that would do stuff like that. I don't think former athletes would normally say those kind of things to other players because they've been there. We've been in those situations where we've been on the bad end of a bad play
Yeah.
and been embarrassed, and you don't want anyone to feel that way. And so I usually find that these are people who never played or
Yeah.
that played high school and maybe got hurt and they just never lived up to their dreams. And it's just
Yeah.
unfortunate that this is their opportunity to like take out all their life frustrations out on teenage kids.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I tell you what, it's a great time in Iowa City. Camp's getting ready to start. You can feel it. I'm going to hear the band about another 5 days playing down here. Oh my gosh. Yeah. In heaven, there is no beer, practicing that one. And it's an exciting time to be in Iowa City. This is a great time of year, obviously. I'm excited for Coach Ferentz and his record that he's going to set, hopefully in week 1, 2, and get the season started. There's nothing, we talk about it, there's nothing like a Saturday in Iowa City. And don't like the traffic. One of the coolest things is after the games, when you come out of Kinnick, you can walk all the way up Melrose. They close the street. No cars are getting out because the whole road is filled with people walking out of Kinnick Stadium. Hopefully, usually it's celebrating a win. And it's just the coolest deal walking out of Kinnick with a victory and walking right down the middle of Melrose. I don't know. And then I think of the year that Iowa won up in Minnesota when they were playing in the Dome and they tore down the goalpost and tried to take it out of the stadium. That might have been a little over the top, but it's actually pretty cool.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
It's pretty cool to think of anyway. I love that stuff. This is where I get torn because I love the Minnesota-Wisconsin rivalry. Have you seen that? The Big Axe? They play for, it's like a 6-foot wooden axe. And the winning team goes and gets it, and then they act like they're chopping down the goalpost. I just think that's the coolest thing in the world. But some people take offense to it. I think it's a great traditional thing. We rushed to get Floyd, which I feel bad because my kids spent 10 years trying to figure out who Floyd was. I was like, we're going to get Floyd back. And they were like, where was he? They didn't realize it was the bronze pig for the longest time. I was probably putting too much merit on the rivalry game there. I guess I'm part of the problem a little bit. But I love getting back to the history of the game, the traditions of the game. I think it's really cool. Indiana's got a great rivalry game with Purdue, the old bucket or something. There's some great, I like to go back and read about these games, the people, the stats, and how it played out. It's really cool to say, I played on that field, right? A lot of those games that had big value. I remember like first time I played in Green Bay during warmups, I remember walking down to where I thought that the Frost Bowl, the Ice Bowl, I'm like, I think this is where the quarterback sneak was, right about right here. And you just put yourself in those situations. That's pretty cool. You know? It's a pretty neat part of the game and the history of the game. And it's some great experiences. You guys have shared them. You guys have had them as well. And they're memories that will carry with us forever. But you just like to, selfishly as a parent, you just want to see all these young people have 99 great experiences versus the other way around. You really want them to just enjoy. And it gets back to one of the things we talked about earlier. Just enjoy playing the game. Enjoy playing, representing the university, representing the fan base here, and getting to enjoy that part of it. Because that's, to me, it's incredibly rewarding when you're able to do that and have that kind of experience. Because I'm lucky. I go out in public and no one ever comes up and says, you sucked. You shouldn't have dropped that ball. They pat me on the back. Hey, remember that Ohio State game? Hey, I can remember it. I don't let anybody forget it. I'll tell you all about it if you want me to. You know what I mean? And you want everybody to have those kind of experiences and have that kind of thought process of their careers, what they were doing here while playing at Iowa. And hopefully everybody like me truly felt like it was an honor to play in the shadows of this stadium and was an alumni with the people that we were alumni with, right? We're all brethren. We all are part of this. And technically, Nick or Brian, one of you guys said it, that we all had those guys that were 3 or 4 years older than us, right? Mean and ornery and tough. But then 3 years later, guess who that mean and ornery tough guy was? You know what I'm saying? There's a culture and a cycle of how it works. And that Hurley was the meanest kicker in Iowa history. He just wasn't friendly. And God, he did a lot of nice things for me. They picked me up a couple times, and I remember that. And one time I was down, he slapped me on the back, said, "How's it going?" Brian Hurley's the coolest guy in the world, right? So Ronnie Harmon, when I was at Iowa, Ronnie Harmon probably said 2 words to me when I was at Iowa. "Hey," or something. He said, "Hey, how you doing?" Or walking through the hallway at Slater Hall. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was like, that was the coolest freaking moment I had. I'm like, I literally walked by going, that was Ronnie Harmon. Like, Ronnie Harmon just walked by me in the hallway at Slater Hall. But I loved the way he played. I loved how he competed and all the great stuff he did when he was a Hawkeye. And so literally, I think he said 2 words to me in 4 years, or the 3 years that we overlapped. When I was in New England, my rookie year, I had a terrible year. I sucked. We're warming up in Buffalo, and Ronnie grabs me. I'm like doing stretches or catching something. He grabs me, says, "Come over here." And he talks to me for like 12 minutes. He's asking me questions about Coach Brazier and what's going on in Iowa City. How's so-and-so doing? And it was like, oh my God. Literally, the mindset I was in, because I was really bad my rookie year. And it was like, it just turned my mindset. I was just like, oh my God, we shared this in common. And it gets back to kind of what we're talking about, that brethren. We shared something in common. We had the same objectives when we were there. But it was to guy that said 2 words to me now, I'm like, Ronnie, I got to get warmed up. I got to go work out and get ready to go. But he just wanted to talk and ask all these questions. Have Coach Fries, he's still telling stories, that stuff. It was like the coolest thing in the world for me to be able to have that kind of conversation with somebody who I admired and respected so much. And like I said, it came at a time for me when I really needed it, because I was down, I wasn't doing well, I was not having the success I thought I was going to be having. And just to get, hey, attaboy, pat on the back, that's all I needed to kind of right the ship a little bit and change my mindset and get back to work. That's what that camaraderie and that brotherhood can bring to the table. And I hope you guys experience that a lot. Even to this day, there's a couple classes that I'm familiar with that they get together every summer when they go 5 or 6, 7, 8 guys get together and go camp out, tell old stories and stuff like that. So it's something I think is pretty special and stays with us for a long time.
We love your passion, the way you've explained the process and your experience. To hear that from you is amazing. Seeing you as one of the guys that's done it all and to be so humble, it's really, really amazing to hear that. So thanks for sharing all that.
It's amazing what you guys are doing. I wish you guys the best. Keep doing it. Like I said, I know Ben Hansen's doing a good job of trying to get the alumni back and have them for games and keep that network together and stuff, which is great.
Why don't we talk about what you're doing now?
I work for Wells Fargo Advisors Financial Network. It's an advisory firm that we do investment planning, investment choices, selections for kind of a boutique operation. Try to help clients make decisions financially, whether it's retirement planning, college planning for their kids, things like that, making allocation choices, and just trying to be a resource for those who don't have necessarily the time or the inclination to do it for themselves. I worked with a Navy pilot a long time ago, and I learned a long time ago that between athletes who were paid to win and Navy pilots who were paid to be there on time, right? And so are we on target on time was the message that we always got, and was always trying to put those 2 things together, was to have success, but to be on target on time with our clients' financial planning and goals and objectives. And if you can accomplish that, then you're doing good things. Been doing that for about 20 plus years now. That's probably something I'll do until I'm 85, 90. I can keep it up mentally. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. And I feel blessed to have a career where I really am able to live my life alongside my clients and friends, share all those different goals that we attain and achieve over the years. And it's, to me, there's no better career in the world than what I'm doing right now. That's the quick mix up of it. But other than that, I got 3 kids. My oldest is in Nashville, my daughter's in Boston, and my youngest is in Des Moines at Principal. So they all in the finance real estate world. My wife and I have some really good places to go visit if and when we want to. Although I got to admit, I didn't go to the bowl game in Nashville this last year. I'm kicking myself a little bit over that. But Drew was down there, and it's good. They've actually been down there quite a bit lately. So Drew's had a lot of buddies come down to Nashville for the bowl game and has a good experience down there with those guys. I'm getting older, a year older every year. But like I said, the great thing about living in Iowa City is I still feel mentally like I'm 23, 24. But it's all good. You guys get back to Iowa City much? I saw you, Nick, one time about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
I try to get back every so often. I think Robert had his thing a while ago. We were back for that. So yeah, it gets harder and harder with the kid and all those things. But trying to hopefully pull off a game this year. Maybe think about the Indiana game.
Oh, yeah. It's the 40-year anniversary.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to come back and meet those guys.
Yeah.
And,
So you'll see about 20 guys with walkers come out on the field and wave.
Yeah, right.
I'll be one of them. I might try to gravitate to a cane.
fanny packs and walkers and
Try to add a little style to what I'm doing.
big cell phones on their hips.
Wear one of those 19, 20, 30 suits where the top hat and stuff. And just come
Oh
out.
yeah,
Old school Kinnick fan.
Yeah, yeah. Iowa comes down to Tampa a lot, but they never play on the other coast, do they?
No, not since the Orange Bowl. I went down to the last Orange Bowl. That was 2010, 9, 10 to visit. So that was pretty cool. And then when I was in Florida earlier, like mid 2000s, they came down for a bunch of bowl games, Outback, Capital One. So that was nice to be able to get to some of those. So hopefully they can keep coming back down here.
I remember sitting there at the one Orange Bowl thinking, should we go? Maybe we should go. We haven't been in the Orange Bowl. Let's go to a fun trip, blah, blah, blah. Decided not to go. And that's the one that we opened up with a kickoff return for a touchdown. And I'm
oh yeah, 03 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Why didn't we go to this game? I was just like, what are we doing? I'm sitting here on my couch watching the opening. And then the next 59 minutes, I was like, thank God I didn't go to that game.
Oh, sorry, there were 60,000 people, I think, that came from their Iowa fans that went to that game.
Yeah,
It was
man.
crazy.
We're blessed. When I played, we played in the Freedom Bowl, which is the inaugural Freedom Bowl in 1984, played Texas. Then we went to the Rose Bowl, played UCLA. Then we went to 2 Holiday Bowls, back-to-back San Diego Holiday Bowls. And then last year was the Peach Bowl. So 4 years I went to California for bowl games and loved it. Loved San Diego. Loved all those games that we played in. Great ways to wrap up a college football season, for sure.
Yeah. How many guys do you think will be back for the 40-year anniversary?
I think we're committed to 60 plus right now. We're still trying to make sure we get everybody contacted. It's a sad thing. There's probably 2 or 3 of my classmates who passed away, unfortunately. And we're getting older. It's statistics, but I think we got about 60 plus committed right now. I got some coaches coming back, some athletic trainers, some of the other support staff are going to be back and part of it. So I'm excited. There's going to be guys that I haven't seen in 30, 40 years. It'll be great to have that. And like I said, Ben Hanson's been doing a phenomenal job running those programs and tying in the alumni to these different programs. So it'll be really a special day. So hopefully a great game too.
Nice. You mentioned Ronnie Harmon. I've been trying to get him on.
Oh, have you?
No luck yet.
Yeah. Yeah. He'd be wearing those dark glasses and yeah. He'd probably get back to where he was in the 80s where he'd say 2 words. Honestly, that's what kind of caught me off guard. He was always quiet, always really quiet with his interviews, everything else. But like I said, to have that warm-up day where he literally talked for 10, 12 minutes, I just was like befuddled. I was like, my gosh, this is amazing. And the only reason was because we shared one thing.
Yeah.
We were Iowa Hawkeyes. That means something, right? That's what we're talking about. There's some clout to that. There's some really cool perks of being a part of that group. I'm blessed. I'm blessed with it and thankful for all those experiences. Like I said, I appreciate the 2 years we overlapped, you guys, when we played with you. I remember snapping you, Nick. I remember when you first were there and you're trying to block me at tight end drills. I remember it perfectly. I vividly remember that. I thought Brad Banks always really threw a really soft ball to me when he was throwing passes to me. DJ Beathard, it was tough.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's the same. It's funny. You can switch out the names. You're like, oh, okay, you're this guy from our team. Completely switch out. There's the same dude, just different names. Yeah, for sure.
The hard part for me is I'll drive by Slater Hall. And I'll tell my kid, I lived on the 7th floor, the 5th floor, and the 3rd floor. I'm like, I thought it was old 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought the dorm was old 40 years ago. 40 years later and it still looks the same. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what it looks like in there right now.
Oh yeah, just
But
yikes.
I got to hand it to the university. They've done a good job. Bump Elliott was a big part of that. Like Kinnick Stadium, all the remodels at Kinnick, they've done a good job of keeping the structure of the arches and the ways and the brick color and stuff. And so every time they made an addition, it's always looked really good. It looks like it just enhances this culture and the structure of the stadium. And so even the press box, the new press box, amazing. The patient end zone is phenomenal addition to what they've done. And
Yeah.
it's a great setting for college football. But the university's done the same thing. They got some new buildings right behind Slater there now that have just gone up. And the academic center there is incredible. So it's just parking gets more and more valuable here in Iowa City. But they keep building big buildings. And like I said, it's fun to live here just because of that. The hospital's great. The university's great. And it's always a vibrant community, as you guys well know. Glad to be a part of it.